Hopefully you guys are doing well as we finish up, at least as far as, well, I don't know. We might do some Q&A tomorrow, but we might do some Q&A today. So we'll see. Probably going to be finished up today, though, with this great and dynamic series, which is actually a little short as far as our series go. We have some series that go 30, 40, 50, 60, 80 parts, stuff like that. But this is actually twice as long as when we did the Genesis series the first time. Excited to kind of put a bow on this and to have gotten a little more, gone a lot deeper into this. And this is part 18. So excited about this. Hopefully, you guys once again are doing well. Mhm. We're going to finish by infusing Havavach or Eve into this part of the conversation. We haven't really placed her in this conversation as of yet, at least not too much. So today will be the day that we do that. So excited to have that conversation. Thanks again to Minister Sonia and Sister Sharnishi as well for a great message, a great word. Keep us on our toes as far as dreams and visions, and giving us some reminders about that as well. I feel we had a great SOC meeting yesterday with some encouragement for ourselves and for one to another. And here we are to be able to continue as a family. So we've got everybody up and running. Let's go ahead and get into this. May the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in Yahweh's sight. He is our strength and our Redeemer, and it's in His name, which is His authority, that we pray, praise, proclaim, project, and protect today's message. Amen. Thank you, everybody. As always, this is Pastor Kofi, Pastor Servant of Christ, where we are always changing lives one mind at a time by being a voice of the voiceless and speaking the unspoken. And we're glad to be in front of you all again on this day, on this rising. Actually, where I am, the weatherman says it's going to rain, but I pray that we're going to be able to have the rain stay back so we can do what we need to do, and then after that it can rain all at once. Hallelujah. But we're going to be faithful. And since we're going to be faithful, we believe that the rain, just as Joshua held back the sun, or was able to pray to ask Yahweh to hold the sun from moving, we believe that we are going to make it through today and finish this up well. We're going to finish strong, as we were talking about the other day or yesterday, for those who were able to make the SOC meeting. And thank you, everybody, once again, for participating in so many different things we had going on yesterday. We appreciate you all. And we should, um, everybody should have got recordings from everything they needed recordings from. We sent the stuff out as far as the classes for you guys to help us to go in the direction we need to go. So prayerfully, you guys will be able to get all that stuff together with us and for us, and help us to be able to make sure that we start getting you more information regarding that. We also have a Hebrew Holy Day this month, so we're going to make sure that we get you guys some information regarding that very soon. We got a meeting on actually what's going to be at the end of this month, so we still got a little bit of time. We'll have a meeting on Tuesday for our Holy Day committee, so we can get that together. But Grand Rising, once again, to everybody, we appreciate you. Thanks for being on. As always, this is Pastor Kofi, Pastor Servant of Christ. We give all honor and praise to the Most High, Yahweh Elohim, who is Abba at Bar at Havak HaKodash. We are thankful to each and every one of you for being on with us and taking some time to spend with us on this rising. We give all honor and praise to Yahweh for my wife, the Honorable Amma, who lives a life that's able to be honored. You can check her out on TikTok, YouTube, her website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish. Not A-N-D, the letter N, Bloom and Flourish. She's a healer, herbalist, chemist, and biologist by degree. And we're thankful and grateful to everything that you guys do to help her in her business. Her business is, in fact, to make sure that your health and the health of our diaspora, therefore the health of humanity, really is her business. So we hope that you help her out in that. To the moderator, to the ministerial staff, to those who are part of SOC, those who are part of the diaspora, those who are human beings, those who agree, who disagree. If it's your first time, many, if it's going to be your first time, and that's it. If you've been on with us for years now, whatever the case might be, we're thankful and grateful for everybody for coming on. Let's go ahead and say hello and get into this. How you doing, Sister Dawn? How you doing, Sister Denise? How you doing, Mike? How you doing, Mike Bell? Excuse me. How you doing, Minister Sonia? How you doing, Deborah? To Aphrodisiac? To Sister or Minister Select Shantae, to Nay, to Pastor. Hey, Pastor Hamilton, how you doing? To Pastor Hamilton, to okay, thank you, Mr. or I'm sorry, Mrs. Is it Mrs. or Mr. Zuno? I can't catch the name, but is it Mr. Zuno one, I think. Am I a Christian? No, I am not, but we do believe in Terach, or scripture, or the Bible, which is what we'll be talking about today. How you doing, Grand Rising, Sister Beverly? Somebody might have came on. I already got muted or something because the screen rolled up on me. Thank you, moderators. How you doing, Sister Beverly? Jay Crockett, thanks for being part of the community today. M. Ramirez, Gen X, okay, thanks for being part of the community. We appreciate your presence, everybody. If I miss your name for some reason, I charge it to my head, not to my heart. Did I say hello to Sister Barbara? I hope I did. Jacques, how you doing? Kumbaka, okay, how you doing? To everybody, we appreciate you. Up Grand Rising Joyous Awakening. I like that. Thank you for being on with us today. So to kind of put the end on this series, we've talked about this. We have a whole series. This is part 18, probably averaging about 2.5 to somewhere between 2.5 to 3 hours of content, per part. So literally this is 18. So there's 18 parts, including today. We usually go a little longer than the 3 hours on Sundays. So there's a lot in this. There's a lot of things. There's some things that if you ask a question about, my answer might just be, hey, you know what? You might want to go to our YouTube channel. If you're on YouTube, of course, you already know about it. If you're on Facebook, you find information about it in the description, or how to get to it in the description. If you are on TikTok, you can go to either Kofi_43, which is this channel, or Kofi_42, and be able to look up a bunch of different stuff that we have as far as on the actual pages. So if you were to go to our main page, and then you were to go there, and if you were to go to our main page, click on where it says link tree, and then from there you'll be able to get a lot more information. The school information is about to change, but everything else should be pretty easy and updated and all that great stuff. How you doing, Big Brother Thomas? How you doing, servant of Yahweh? Appreciate you. How's everybody doing? Minister Tamara in the house. We're excited to get into this. So we've been talking about a lot of different things concerning Barashat, or even Barashat Aleph at Bet, or what you would call Genesis chapter 1 and 2. We're revisiting this series, especially since they took down the original YouTube channel. By the way, keep us in prayer. We were trying to figure out what we're going to do with the YouTube channel. We could, in essence, go ahead and make it to where we go ahead and get money off of the views and everything that it is. So it's extra money coming in. The problem with that is that if we do that, it gives a whole bunch of people with commercials and different things like that, and companies to come across and say, we don't like that you guys said this, we don't like you guys said that. And that's more than likely how the World Health Organization was able to go ahead and kind of shut down what we were doing the first time when we started talking about, the jab. So we want to be careful about that. So y'all keep us in prayer. We'll probably keep it the way we have it for a little while, because some things are not for sale, right? Including your soul, including the messages that are given. So more than likely we'll leave it the way that it is, but y'all keep that in prayer with us, and we'll see what we're going to do with that. But we want to get to, so we're basically in Genesis chapter 2, about a bit at this point. And we talked about so many different things. We talked about the pillars of the earth, where this earth is founded upon. We've talked about the Yams, Yam Aleph, which is the first period of time. By the way, when I say Yam, I'm talking about the day, right? And a day in Hebrew does not mean 24 hours. A day in Hebrew is talking about a period of time. So Yam, when it says there were 7 Yams, really 6 Yams the world's created, and on the 7th Yam, it was Shabbat, or on the 7th day, the Most High rested. But we don't know how long each day was. right? We don't know how long each day was. Well, I mean, if that's what you believe, first of all, there's no such thing as a firmament. The firmament was something that was made up, right? The firmament was a Greek god, somebody taking Greek mythology, like they do with a lot of places in the Bible, putting Greco-Roman mentality in, or even Latin type mentality in, the different people. They decided to put certain words in there so they could go ahead and put their culture in, because when it comes to Christianity, when it comes to gods, when it comes to deists, when it comes to deities, that's what you do. You kind of put whatever you want together to make sure you hold a world power. That's what the Roman Catholic Church started to do with the first Bishop of Rome, who was given power by Justinian and Theodora, and was really backed up by even the Roman Catholic Church themselves in 538 AC, when they came out with the Justinian decree to declare that now they feel like they have so much truth. But as far as what we go by the original, the origin. We wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, which is origins, kingdom origins. And so since we're not wrestling against people, but we're wrestling against what it originally was stated for a people and for humanity, we just go with that instead. So since we go with what was original, we go with the Hakwaya, not the firmament. The firmament is the son of Gaia, who then had sex with his own mother Gaia to be able to give birth to the Titans and everything that's upon the earth. That's how they try to explain the giants and the Nephilim and all those different things like that, and how they try to explain the beginning of everything coming from nothing, to be able to make sure that once the Medo-Persian Empire was defeated and all these Greek tribes were trying to come together, they started hiring people to change what their belief system was. And the Romans, as they had a tendency to do, like when they took what the Etruscans did and conquered them, and they took what Kemetic people did and they took this and that, they also took what the Greeks did, right? So so that's why a lot of people still to this day have a false sense of half the Bible is written in Hebrew, or Avle, which is really the original language, right? And then half the Bible is written in Greek. And even people now, they're trying to change it. Well, we know not all the Bible was written in Greek in the last half, but the reason you have that is because the first 4 versions of the Bible, you have the original, and then you have 4 versions of it afterwards. They were written in Avle, even the ones that were going across, but then they started writing it in Greek, the Septuagint and other versions like that. Then after a while, it became tradition. It became part of traditional lore, not traditional fact, not contextual fact, not truth, but it became part of traditional lore. Let's make sure that half of it's in Hebrew, half of it's in Greek. But once again, we have to be careful, because if we change anything, we learned this, right? If we change the origin of something, then we have to do what? We have to change everything else. So you're going to change by the shots, right? Genesis 1-4, even we did a whole thing on that. If you're going to change Genesis 1-4, guess what? You got to change Revelation 1-4, because Revelation 4 is dealing with what? Genesis 1 and 2. Really, Genesis 1, if you want to go there. So if I change Genesis chapter 1, then I have to change Revelation now, because Revelation chapter 4 is based off of what? The Hakwaya. So if it's based off of the Hakwaya and what's going on up here, Revelation 4 is telling me what the Most High is seeing through here, right? And the Hakwaya is even mentioned. For somebody who said that the Hakwaya, or what you call the firmament, disappeared after creation, the Hakwaya actually says it will be rolled back in Revelation chapter 4. So how did it Revelation chapter 6, excuse me. So how, if Revelation chapter 4 talks about the Hakwaya and what's being looked through, and Revelation chapter 6 is part of what's going to happen when the sixth seal is taken off the scrolls, is that we're going to see everything roll back before all of a sudden a third of the stars and a third of the waters and all that stuff is going to be taken away, right? If that's what we're dealing with, then we can't say it disappeared. See, so if we change the beginning, then we got to change the end. If we change the beginning and the end, we got to change everything in between. This is why people have a problem. This is why people are leaving churches in droves. This is why our people are going to witchcraft before anything else now, because hey, at least in other places they're honest about it. Heck, I keep trying to tell you guys, more Wiccan, more witches, more pagans, etc. More of them are into Christmas than you are. You said, do I think Ethiopians have Greek in them? There could be a couple people mixed with stuff, sure, but Ethiopians, especially if you're talking about the ancients, right? If we're talking about ancient stuff that leads up to today, well, I mean, you got to talk about Kush, right? Were the Greeks interested in Kush? They were, in a sense, because they don't know that Kush is what actually fed Kemet. And when they came over and actually took over Kemet, it was actually Kush that was trying his best to hold on and had to take back over Kemet to try and fight against all the oppressors. But eventually the Cushitic king, the last Cushitic dynasty that was in Kemet, had to let go, because they were like, man, even though it was a sad state of affairs for us on that day, they had to roll out and leave, right? And that was, so when you're talking about who are you talking about? You're talking about Cush, right? And when you say Cush, are we talking about Ethiopia? Are we talking about South Sudan? Where are we talking? Because there's a lot of Cush. Cush stretched out into what people try to now call the Middle East. Well, Yessus or Yesu is a nickname, and a lot of people go by the nickname that Pontius Pilate gave him because that's all that he had. But Pontius Pilate put before Yessus in the Greek and Yesu in the Latin. Before that on the cross, he put Yashphai, right? Yashphai Malach Avda, or here's Yashphai, King of the Hebrews. You remember that was in Hebrew. It's in your Bible. Read your Bible. It'll bless you. He puts in Hebrew his name first, and then he didn't know how to address him, right? So he puts Yesus, half man, half Zeus, and right in Greek, because a lot of people that were living in Israel at that point, including even the religious leaders, were not even Hebrew anymore, right? Or at least not full Hebrew. There was a lot of different stuff like Herod the king. Herod was not a Hebrew. He was a gens, right? Connected to what we call Gentiles, connected to the throne. Right. So he put it in different languages so that people would know what was going on. He wanted everybody to know that this man, he had washed his hands clean now because he knew that he had no fault. And he knew that he kept saying he had a kingdom that came from not of this world. In his mind, what do you do in Greece? What do you do in Rome with that? They must be talking about, where Zeus is. They must be talking about Mount Olympus. They must be talking about what they call what we now call a demigod. They would have maybe said like a demi-deity or something like that, or a demi-deus, right? But what we call demigod, a half man, half Zeus. They were familiar with that, right? So, yeah. So, well, Haile Selassie, supposedly his kingdom's supposed to come through the lineage of David. So if you're looking at King Haile, Haile Selassie, we need to make sure that we actually go through the proper channel. It's still about culture, and that's what we're trying to talk about. But in all those things, we talked about those things. We talked about you got to be careful on what to change. We talked about that if you change one thing, you change another. We talked about the flood. We talked about the promise. If we talked about that, we even went to a place of making sure that we had to go to Enoch, right? And we had to make sure that we spoke on Enoch and what Enoch presented to us and things of that nature. And then we showed Enoch, and we focused on Enoch 6-8. We talked about the watchers. We went into different things and answered some questions regarding that, which I think I answered most of, but at the same time, I know there's some things that I still need to make sure that I get. So I'm going to get to somebody personally who has some questions that started us going down that path. We even talked about the fact that we don't want to do what the watchers did. If you look at the book of Enoch, it said that they came into something called an imprecation. The watchers are the angels that were going to get ready to come down. How you doing, Sister Deja? They had made a decision that the main one was going to come down. Samajaza was like, hey, I'm going to go down, but I think y'all ain't going to come down with me. So they made a pact. They knew that what they were doing was going to be cursed, right? So they came together and they came and made a pact, but it was an imprecation. It was a spoken curse. If anything, you might even call this some of the beginnings of witchcraft, right? Where we're going to control because what is the basic definition of a witch? A basic definition of a witch is someone who controls. And what does craft mean? Craft means you're creating something, right? Or you're being creative, depending. Some people believe only the Most High can create. Some, and therefore we're only creative. Either way you would look at it, they were putting something together, right, based off of what was formed. So we don't want to get into an imprecation to where we try to control people. And this is why we even go into Revelation chapter 2 and tell you guys about Nicolaitan doctrine. Nicolaitan doctrine, I ain't know, Sister Tracy. Nicolaitan doctrine is mentioned twice in Revelation chapter 2 alone. How you doing, Sir Stephen? And when it says Nicolaitan doctrine, what does that even mean? Nicolaitan doctrine literally means Nikos laity. Nikos, people who conquer, laity, people who deserve to be conquered, right? So when you go to your churches, if you're going there today, and they say, hey, we need the lay people to do da. What they're telling you is that lay people deserve to be conquered, right? They say lay people say what? That you deserve to be conquered, right? So we're talking about, we don't want to come into an imprecation to where we keep dealing with these curses, right? We keep asking for the curses, believe it or not. We have the right to come outside the curses. I'm doing well. Thank you, brother. We have the right to come out the curses. We always focus on the curses to say, hey, that's who we are. That's who we are. Okay, you know what? That's what we dealt with, but that's not who we are. You can focus on Deuteronomy 28:15-68, and there's a lot more to it, because there's a lot more to a curse. It takes more energy to be cursed than it does to be blessed. So you can focus on 15 through 68, and we talk about it extensively. We talked about starting at verse 44 or 45, whichever one it is, where it starts talking about the men aren't in place and we're tender, unprepared. So that's giving us tender women, that's giving us tender children. And the list goes on. And we were taking away ships in verse 68, and all those things are true. We have no problem with that. But is that our focus? Is that our focus? We keep asking. Yeah, Pastor, we keep asking for focus. I mean, for curses. Real talk. We keep asking for curses. Oh, yes, we do. We keep asking for curses. A lot of people are out here putting more stock in curses. At a certain point, you got to say to yourself, am I going to put more stock in the curse? Yes, fine. The curse happened upon my people, and this generation is generational curses, but I have the right to be a curse breaker. I've decided to break the curse. So yes, will I talk about the curse? Sure, because the curse is real. Would I lay down in bed with the curse? Will I marry myself to the curse? Will I say that you can't see me outside the curse? Will I keep having to make imprecation? Right? Coming together and saying, let's keep agreeing to the curses. Yeah, we agree the curses happen, but the curses are not us. We can say that the curses are even the way that you can say it points towards us because of our disobedience, but we're coming out of that now. We've decided as a people, we've decided as a diaspora. This is why they got a problem with it. We've decided as a diaspora that we're going to come outside of it and see when we start going back to the beginning, the origin, right? We wrestle not against, this is why we keep saying this stuff. We wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against what? Principalities, against the origin, against the kingdom origin. With a belief in, yes, us, have man, have Zeus, and then changing it, and then changing the color, and then changing the culture. Yeah, that is a curse, right? That's why Romans chapter 10, verse 1 through 4, all these things we've been saying. Romans chapter 10, verse 1 through 4, what does it say? Romans chapter 10, verse 1 through 4 says this. It says, verse 1, right? Verse 1, it makes it a point to say that Paul says my prayer. And see, we got to put the stuff in order, right? So real quick, I'm not going to go deep into the Roman road. We still got to get into the end of finishing Genesis 2. But real talk, right? Romans chapter 10, verses 1 through 4 is based off of what came before it. Because it's a whole epistle, it's a whole letter. So Romans 1:11 says, I'm writing this that you might be established. What's going to establish it? Why do we need to be established or even reestablished? Why? Romans chapter 3, verse 23, all have sinned. That means all of us have missed the mark and fallen short of the glory of Elohim. That means the imprint that's supposed to be upon us. What makes you his child? When somebody puts together a scroll, thank you, Pastor. Appreciate that, Pastor Hamilton. When somebody makes you a child, right? When somebody makes you a child of the king, right? When somebody makes you a child, right? That means that when you get a scroll from them, you get a scroll from your parent, when you get a ring or whatever, it has your imprint, it has your glory, it has your insignia on it, it has your what you mark it as your why am I missing the word I'm looking for? Like SOC, we have it. Why am I missing somebody help me? I'm missing the real word I'm looking for. It's at the tip of my tongue. I'm dancing around it, but it's escaping me. But y'all know what I'm saying. You have your picture, your insignia, your what do we call it modern times now, right? If you get an Apple phone and you see the bitten apple, what do you call that? You call that their it'll come to me if the Holy Spirit wants me to get it. But that's we fell short. We've sinned, right? Right, not the aura, but logo. Thank you, Sister Cynthia. And how you doing? You've fallen short of. So his logo is not on you. His imprint, his glory. That's what glory is. Glory is weight or heaviness. So if I were walking on the beach, we say this all the time, and my foot were to hit the sand, and my sand, even his signature, if you will, yeah. So when my foot hits the sand and it comes up, right? When my foot comes up from the sand, it's called, by definition, it would be my glory, right? So you can tell I've been there because my glory or my imprint was there. You can see, if somebody commits a crime, one of the things that they might do is they might try to see if they can find footprints. If they can find footprints, they can see what your shoe is. If they can see what your shoe is, they can look, right, to see if you own those shoes, or if you bought those shoes, or if you whatever, right? Like, they're looking for your imprint. Right, so we've all fallen short, and therefore we're missing the glory. So Romans 5:8 says that while we were yet sinners, without his glory on us, Yahshua dies for us, right, to get us out of this imprecation, this spoken curse that we keep speaking over our lives. And after that, then Romans 6:23 tells us that the wages of, I'm sorry, Romans 6:22 tells us that we're now free. Why are we free? Because Romans 6:23 says that the wages of sin was death, but the gift of Elohim, sending his son to make sure we get his glory upon us, is what? Eternal life. Now the glory can come back on you. The imprint can be back on you. So you can go ahead and get this eternal life. Now Romans 8:1 comes into play, where I am no longer under condemnation. I won't condemn myself, and I won't allow somebody else to condemn me, as long as what? I follow after the spirit and not after the flesh. If I follow after the spirit and not after the flesh, well, then what's the next part? Romans 8:11, that I focus on the eternal, right? And not the temporary. Why? Because the same spirit that rose Yahshua from the dead, right? It dwells within me and will quicken my mortal body. Because he's immortal, I'm a fellow heir with him. So now I am immortal, right? So I'm not worried about the temporary, because I can live forever, according to Romans 5:8, according to Romans 6:23. So now Romans 8:18 comes into place. The suffering of this present time is not worthy to be compared to the glory which shall be revealed. Romans 8:19 now says that I've suffered through some things, and I got that glory that's revealed on me and in me and around me and around my life. So now Romans 8:19 says that the creature, those that don't have the glory on them yet, right, are waiting on the manifestation of the sons of Elohim, because we've come outside of the curse. And once we come outside the curse, Romans 8:28 says that all things are now beneficial. They're constitution, they're working together for the constitutional value, for the value of Elohim, for those that love him, Ahaba, that are doing the action right and are called, that's kletos, according to his purpose. Once we're called according to his purpose, now we get to Romans chapter 10, verse 1, where Paul says, it is still my prayer that Israel would be saved. Wait a minute, what? Yep, it is still my prayer that Israel would be saved. Romans 10:2, that Israel's walking around and we have we have a zeal of Elohim, but it's not according to knowledge. It's not according to intimacy with the world. My people perish for a lack of knowledge, for a lack of intimacy. Hosea 4:6 says, and he says, it's not because you didn't have a chance to get it, but it's because you've been rejecting it. You've been rejecting it. You've been choosing the curse. You've been choosing the curse. You've been doing the imprecation. You come together on Sundays and you keep speaking the curses, right? You have a zeal, Romans 10:2, you have a zeal of Elohim. You're going to go there and you're going to run around the church and stuff today, but it's not according to what? It's not according to knowledge, right? So Romans 10:3 says that we messed up on the law. We got into everybody else's law, except for what the Most High originally had for us, right? So we did everything except for what the Most High originally had for us. Excuse me. Trying to get on track, get this thing up. So, right, all these different pictures we've been going through. So now when we're trying to get to this mentality of Adon or Eden, right? Romans chapter 10, verse 4 says that we ain't even close to having the same mentality where he can walk with us in the cool of the day, because we don't even know what to do. That's why Romans 10:9, it says that you must confess. You think that confess just means to say, but confess can mean to say what has been said, to say what has been done, but even in the Greek, it means homologio. Homo means same, logio means logic of or study of, which means that if you don't have the logic of the Most High, then you can't confess his son. Right? If you don't have the proper logic, then you can't confess. But people are out here telling you about logic that's not biblical. That's not of Tanakh, that's not of Torah, etc. Right? It doesn't equate, or it's incomplete because you haven't read some of the things that are missing. Right? And that's why, once again, people keep mentioning God. I don't believe in God. I believe in Elohim, because God and Elohim are not the same. God is a Germanic deity. So, of course, you would say that it comes from somebody else. That's why we don't talk about the firmament. The firmament is a Greco-Roman deity, right? Why would we talk about the firmament instead of the choir? Of course, you can't see a firmament because you keep looking for something that doesn't exist. And may I say this, as much as it's going to make some people mad, it will make people mad, and that's okay. You keep looking for Jesus or Yesus or Yesu, and he doesn't exist because that's a nickname, and at the most, it was a nickname given because somebody couldn't talk about how Yahshua actually was, so they gave the best they could, half man, half Zeus. It's not real. It's not his authority. Now, when you're in your ignorance, the Most High will still take care of you. Like a baby would do some things in ignorance. No, you represent God every day. I represent Elohim. It's a different thing. See what I'm saying? Culturally, people are like, we represent. You got to get it in. You can't even hear what I'm saying. Like, and I get it. Like, you're being somewhat obedient. Let me give you a scripture to help you. 1 Peter chapter 2 verse 15. You're saying, I'm going to defend that which I have a hope in. You're saying 1 Peter 2:15, I'm going to defend what I have a hope in. So your hope is in God. Cool. But God is a Germanic deity. And he's not what Yahshua worship. And he's not therefore with anybody who's grafted into what Yahshua worships. And yes, that's important. 1 Corinthians 11. Before you get into your whole thing talking about how you're going to make sure that you do communion, which is really supposed to be Passover, before you use your communion scripture, read 1 Corinthians 11. And it will tell you that you need to stop worrying about doing those things and be grafted in. Even if you're not an Israelite, you got to be grafted into the same thing. If you don't believe that, go ahead and look up Revelation chapter 7. It tells you that Israel must be sealed, and then it tells you that everybody gets grafted in. You might not like it. Then read Revelation chapter 21 and 22. It tells you that in the order to get to heaven, you have to pass a gate with Israelite tribal names on them. You hear what I'm saying? Like, it's in your Bible, but you've refused to say maybe it's there. So we don't have a place of Adon, or what we call Eden nowadays, because Eden literally means 5 things. We talked about this, that if you're going to talk about a garden, first of all, right, if you're going to get past some of these things, and we talked about even the whole thing of dealing with, how the world actually looked at the time of the garden, and science even agrees with it, and then therefore it's split apart. And yes, I know we use this map specifically to show how disproportionate this map actually is, but we're trying to show you that you believe in a lot of things that are not true, et cetera, right? And we even tried to show how if you get the garden thing correct and put the world back the way it was supposed to be pre-flood and all that, you'll actually see how the rivers and things go together. And we talked about that, the fact that there was the mist and all these things that people said were only prehistoric, yet you see these things today. And the Bible actually discusses how these things look the same way that you see them right here in these pictures, right? And we talked about how the rain happened, but it didn't happen until after man was disobedient, things like that, which led us to where we're talking about today, focusing in Genesis 2, right? But you've got to recognize what? You've got to recognize what? You've got to recognize, how you doing, Purple? You've got to recognize that all these different things that we're talking about, right? You got to recognize that all these things are getting us to where we're talking about and starting off on today, right? They have to come through a specific order. And we don't want to be honest about what people who say that they use the Bible and want to use pieces of it to be able to complete whatever structure they say when they want to go to all these different spiritual beliefs and all these different things. You got to at least be honest about it. We got to be honest about where all these things came from and where they were together. India, Madagascar, what you call Iraq and Iran, or Babylon or Syria, and all these different places that everybody trying to say the Garden of Eden was, East Africa as well, and all these different places that were there, Australia, all these places. Everybody says we're the oldest civilization. We're the oldest civilization. You were all together at one point, and now because you've learned from somebody to separate yourselves, which is one of the greatest things that you can learn from the Bible, is to be holy, to be whole, to be one. But you've learned more about separation. How you doing, Michelle? You learn more about separation than you have about coming together. And since you've learned more about separation than coming together, that's why we teach. Like, people don't even know what a continent is, right? How you doing, Marnie? Thanks for being part of the community. Like, people don't even know what a continent is. You think that Europe's a continent. It's a peninsula by definition. How can Europe be a continent when it's not completely surrounded by water? You said you're finding many who graduated from their seminaries haven't read the Bible. A lot of them don't. This is one of the things that we tell you. Like, you got to recognize that your pastors, right, or your bishops, archbishops, leaders, whatever you want to call these positions, Pope, etc. Like, well, Pope is different. But a lot of these pastors that you have, they don't even have time to study their Bible. They have time to try and put together a sermon. But putting together a sermon doesn't always require study. Trying to do a marriage contract, we can set something up. You can reach out to us. Our information is on. If you go on TikTok, just look up the information and stuff like that, and get in touch with us. Go to the link tree and see how you can get in touch with us. You can text us and let us know. I probably won't get back to you today. Sunday is my family day. If it's a Wednesday is usually my day off, even though I don't really do days off. But Wednesdays, I usually try my best to at least get some time off. But yeah, we can set something up for sure. right? But you got to get into this place where you realize like we're all over the place because we won't acknowledge truth. And I don't not just giving contextual facts as far as just the Biblios, right, or Bible. I'm giving you stuff that's we're giving you stuff that's historical, right? Because it's got to all come together. If one part of it's not true, then it's not holy. It's not whole, right? It's all got to come together. If it doesn't, if something doesn't work, this is what I try to tell people. For example, be careful with these prophets, right? Not right. Everybody says they're a prophet, not a prophet. You know how you can tell straight up whenever a prophet tells you something, whenever somebody prophesies or speaks over your life or tells you that Yah said this or that or whatever, it better match up with what the word says. If it doesn't, you got a problem. The people just want somebody to speak anything over their life because we're tired, we're done with it, we're disinterested, we've been mismanaged, we've been micromanaged, we've been frustrated, we've been toiling for somebody else, we keep making other people rich, we don't have any land to speak of, we don't grow our own food, we're afraid of food. You know, it's actually hard. Like we have people who are my wife's clients. We'll talk to, and they'll be like, yo, you know what, like, well, I eat healthy, I eat this, I eat healthy, I eat this. And it's sad, but it's disheartening sometimes, but you got to tell them, that like even food that you go to and you think it's the freshest, most organic stuff, you're kind of rolling the dice because a lot of that's not grown correctly or it's genetically modified, whether they tell you or not. Now they then came out with this new thing where they say bioengineered, basically is kind of sort of the same as genetically modified, but they go around certain things. So you can have something that's extreme, that's genetically modified and bioengineered, but if they can use certain language, that they don't even have to admit to you that they're doing that. You're eating stuff. A lot of especially our sisters, a lot of brothers nowadays have an iron deficiency, always cold and shivering and things like that, and can't take any kind of air conditioning whatsoever. And it's like, why can't you take air conditioning? Because you ain't eating no iron, right? This is stuff that takes you away from what we used to be. You have a modified sense even in what you eat, and you are what you eat. You eat modified food. You are served modified truths. You are served modified stories. You call them his story instead of the story. See, it's even modified in the word, but you don't even know that it's modified. You don't even think about that. In your mind, you think that it's a natural thing. In your mind, so many people love to be able to say, I'm a history buff. I need you to be a historical buff, not a historical buff. See, because somebody who's into the story is going to be able to find the facts and the untruths in his story. Right? Like a lot of people, they want to, yeah, I got this degree and I'm into history and I know all about history. You can't tell me anything about history. I look, I can tell you a lot of things about history because I was raised in it like you were. But when I decided to come out of his story and get into his story don't make sense. We've talked about so many different things on here, right? Like people don't even realize that neutrons aren't even real. They're a theory. They couldn't prove neutrons. So guess what they did? They came up with another theory. They said the neutrons come from neutrinos, and they can't prove that neutrinos are real. It's a theory. But people will say when we say Nevan Kassad, right, which is the number, which is the name, that the number of the name is 603 score and six, which is 666, not 666. But they keep trying to tell you proton, neutron. It doesn't make sense because there's no proof that there's a such thing as a neutron. Right. So we want to talk about this. We talked about Adam yesterday. We want to get into Eve today, right? Adam and Eve. And we want to get into this first marriage. Isn't that interesting that in all the things people say, why do you talk about marriage so much? And even if you're not married to a person, you're supposed to be married to the Most High, right? But in marriage, we talk about marriage so much that people say, why do you always talk about marriage? But the Most High talks about marriage so much because it's important. How you doing, Alton? How you doing, Shlonda? It's important. The Most High talks about it because it is important. It is the first day. It's what makes you legal. Problem is that you got a bunch of people that are illegal in marriage. They're doing the creature thing rather than the son's thing that manifests. A lot of people are fruitful and multiply, but cannot replenish and subdue. That's facts. A lot of people can be fruitful and multiply, but they cannot replenish, nor are they able to subdue. Shalom Krypton, how you doing? So in marriage, right? First of all, we talked about Adam yesterday, and we talked about how he had to be in his work, and we talked about how he was formed, right? He talked about how he was formed. How was he formed? Right? What's the difference between formed? Anybody remember? What's the difference between formed and made, or formed and built, or formed and shaped? Because Adam is formed, but Eve is shaped. Right? What's the difference? Anybody remember? What's the difference if I say that Adam was formed, but I say Eve was shaped? What's the difference? See, you got to know this. Adam formed, shaped. What's the difference, right? She's bara. Or actually, no, she's not even bara, excuse me. But she's shaped, right? Formed is saying that that it had to be taken, right, and made and basically made for the first time. There were materials used that were used to make it for the first time, right? Formed, right? But Eve is saying that she was shaped, she was built. So Adam, there was no such thing as a human being like Adam before, right? There was nothing on Adam's level before. He was formed, but Eve was made out of the material that Adam was, right? So Adam was formed, right? There was no such thing as what he was specifically. Like there was no such thing on his level. You kind of got to use that for yourself nowadays too, because there's no such thing as anything that's on your level either, right? But out of you can come some things, right? But that's going a little difficult, right? But he formed him, right? He took from, yeah, exactly. I like that. He took from certain things that were there and he formed something that was going to be better, because there was no man that was on a level that could do what that could. That's why we talked about the dew, and we talked about, or sorry, talked about the mist, and we talked about the rain, right? Yesterday, because there was no man that was able to cause growth. That's why there was a mist. No man had the ability to cause growth. There was man that had, we could be fruitful, multiply, replenish, and subdue, but they could not what? They could not cause growth. There was mankind, but no man. They could not cause growth. So Adam is created. Now, how was Adam created? How are you how are you able to take up legal residence? We talked about this, right? Right. Well, the woman comes out of Adam, right? Even the side. And this is where we get into a little interesting stuff too, because I don't know if I have enough time to do it today, but you've got to go through, like, so the there's the Avda version, there's the Jewish version, there's the Christian version, there's other religions that are getting into this. So we're having conversations in different mindset and thought process, and people are giving different things in that we read up, right? But when we look at it, like, once again, Adam becomes a living soul. Why? Because he was formed from what? He was formed from the dust of the ground, right? The dust of the ground, right? This is the same dust that later on Yahweh is going to use to curse or to bring a plague upon Kemet with gadflies, right? But it's upon the dust of the ground, right? People recognize there's a lot of dust. What? Even when you pass away, ashes to ashes and dust to dust, you will return from that which you came. You came from the dust, you will return to the dust as far as your physical body. So his physical body is formed from the dust, right? And why was his physical body formed from the dust? Because there was something he was going to have to cause growth. So there's going to be a new type of being, right? Where there's a physical body coming from the dust, fully forming, right? Y'all with me? Physical body coming from the dust, fully forming. Why did the physical body need to come from the dust? Why did it have to be different? What was going to cause this particular type of man to be able to cause growth? Right? What was going to cause this particular man to cause growth? He was going to have something put inside of this body. We call it ravak or ruach, or even pneuma, or even spirit. Now, spirit, pneumatical thought. Pneumatical thought is literally stoic thought that buries the spirit, the body, and the soul together. So this spirit was going to need to, in order for it to exist on the earth realm, to be legal on the earth realm, it was going to need to have a physical body, and it was also going to have to be married into a soul, or have a soul attached to it. That's right. Problem with that is that he did not have a soul. So it says he's laid out, right? Adam is laid out, physical body laid out, spirit trying to be attached but can't stay in the body because there's no soul, right? Because there is no soul yet. So what happens? It says Yahweh breathes into him and he becomes a living soul. Now he can be pneumatical. Now the spirit can really address things because why? The spirit's designed to be able to do what? To deal with the spiritual, to deal with the soul, and to deal with the body. Now, in the Greek, the word soul means psyche, right? Psyche. So the psychology is the study of the soul or the logic of the soul, right? That's what we're dealing with, is the psychology of the soul, the study, the logic of the soul. That's what psyche means, even in the Greek. That right? So even when you're using these terms, but people say, and this is when people get upset, right? They say, oh, you need to change, definitions change over time. Yes, they do, because people get their hands on things and they take what is fine and they define it. They take what is fine and they break down what is fine. They define it. So you got to be careful. Before you talk about what's defined, have you ever learned what was fine? Right? Before you talk about what's defined, did you ever learn what was fine? How you doing, Minister Select Morel? Right? Before you learn, once again, what is defined, did you ever learn what was fine? When things were fine the way they were, right? When things were fine the way they were, what did they mean? Do we even know? Are we even aware? You said defined is explaining fine. Define is breaking down the fine, and sometimes it is. But then problem with that is though that we don't even know that words have been redefined and redefined and redefined. And so what we have to do is go into a place of refining. See, when you do study of etymology, all you're doing is just refining what was there. You're salvaging the word. Right? We wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principality. When you're saying you're breaking it down according to what? According to knowledge, right? Right? According to knowledge. Ishalu, retwist your mindset so you can hear rather than just see and be blind, in your hearing to the point to where you can't hear anything that anybody's saying. What I choose to do with my culture and my tribe is what I choose to do, right? But you got to refine, right? We're dealing with a problem that we need to what? Refine. What's there? Right? You need to refine. Right? We have a problem. We don't even know what's fine. Well, religion is basically what you do every day. Legion and you repetitively do something as a legion. If you go for a run every day, you technically religiously run, right? If you drink coffee every day, you drink coffee religiously. I guess what you're trying to say is, what do I call myself? Well, I'm Afra. I'm a follower of the way. I'm a spirit infused through the soul into a flesh body, trying to become greater, that I might have a glorified body. I am Kofi. Right? But yeah, I don't fit in a neat box. I'm Yashadel, if that's what you're looking for. But at the end of the day, I'm into, we're talking specifically about this, right? So you got to refine, you got to retool. The problem is people don't like what's fine. They want it refined. They want to redefine. That's what define is. Define. Like if you were to construct something, right? See how like somebody, see, we're talking about construction of a word. If you were to construct something, if I were to deconstruct it, what does that mean? You see what I'm saying? If I were to construct something and then I said, you know what, let's deconstruct it. Are you saying that means that it still means I'm building? No, it means that I'm saying I'm taking apart what was built. If I were to give you right? If I were to say, I want to give you a device. What is a device? A lot of people don't even know. What is a device in this basic thing? How you doing, Shalom, to T A lot of us on. Thank you for being on today, right? If I were to give you a device, if we were to have a device, what does device mean? It means that there was a vice. It was something that was really difficult. It squeezed life out. It was really hard to do this thing. And then I give you a device. It means that it's supposed to deconstruct the vice. It's supposed to make it a little easier. So your phone is a device because it makes life easier. Right? Right? You see? But right, if we have segregation, but then somebody says there's going to be desegregation, segregation means we're going to keep people apart based upon color, religious belief, whatever, right? But then somebody says we're going to desegregate, it means you're actually integrating. But then somebody says, hey, I want to live by definitions. What is fine? I want to break it apart. No, we don't recognize what words are. We have to go back to the origin. We wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against what? Principalities, the origin, the kingdom origins, right? That's what we do. We wrestle not against flesh and blood, but we keep defining things. This is how bad it is. For those of y'all who read your Bible, find a Bible that's 25 years old and read that same Bible today and see how many words have changed. See, we don't study that. If you're going to study etymology, you got to study how often this thing changed and when it changed and what it meant in a specific time and all that. You have to know dates. That's why people didn't like it. But we were talking about, that's why people didn't like it. We were focusing on this right here, which your Bible talks about, and scientists believe in as well. And both faiths come together and agree on this, except you fight about it. Why? Because both of y'all are trying to go off of something that you've defined over and over again. Leave it fine the way it is, right? Both of us believe before there was this, even though this is a bad map projection, I know, but both of us believe before it was this, we believe it was this. It's in both versions of whatever canonical viewpoint. And yes, I'm using canonical viewpoint even for the scientists, because guess what? The scientist still has to have faith. Right? Even the word definition, you don't even know what shion means or shun. Right? When we talk about shion or shun, right? That T-I-O-N, that shion, that's a Latin thing, right? You see it C-I-O-N, shion, or en français or in Espanol, you'll see it, right? What does it mean? It's telling you that it's a noun now. So to define something literally means I'm deconstructing it, fine. It was cool the way it was, so I'm deconstructing what was the way it was, and then T-I-O-N, I'm making it a noun. I'm making this a new thing. I'm leading people down this path, and I'm changing what places really mean. You deal with definition all the time. That's why a lot of you guys don't even know, right? That's why a lot of us don't even know, peep game. A lot of us are not even aware of what, right? Yeah, exactly. Change definition of vaccine. A lot of us are not even aware of how you define a parade or a triumph or a victor. You hear these words all the time. Be triumphant. Look what a triumphant is. You probably don't want to be that. But you speak it over your life. And you tell other people to be it. Be a victor, not a victim. You know that victors created victims. That's why they're victors. Like, if you look up what a victor is, thank you for the love. Appreciate that. That was a nice heart. Right? If you look up what a victor is, a victor cannot be a victor unless he creates victims. So how can you tell somebody to not be a victim if you created their victimhood? See, but we had conversations about that. Nobody wants to bring in proper etymology. How can you have a parade? What is a parade? A parade is when you have somebody who has defeated somebody, has caused genocide, has beat them up, has taken their leadership, and brings them in front of everybody, in front of all of Rome, for all to be able to see. That's why when you guys come out, you see these long parades and you see people dancing, and you see these big now balloons and stuff like that. That's what they did. They had all these people dancing. They had their soldiers singing vulgar songs. They were singing songs about raping the women of the people they had just defeated. Oh yeah, they did. They had all that stuff. Thank you for the love. Appreciate it, scrapping. They did all those things. They brought them around. It was a triumph. Right? It was cool. They had to get permission. They got to wear purple that day. Purple was a big deal. They could only wear strips of purple because purple meant that you were a king, right? Purple was for kings. But back then, they didn't want anybody to be a king. So only the Senate, show you how the Senates are really your kings. The Senate got to wear stripes of purple, but nobody else really got to wear purple. right? So on those togas you see that are white, when you see somebody in these movies wearing white, but they have a purple strip or a reddish type strip on it, they're talking about culture. They're saying that these are the kings, these are the Senate, right? They're not really kings, but technically they rule over your life. Those are the corporations, the people over the corporations, and they rule you. And they actually were honest about it, rather than today, corporations put people in the Senate, right, to do their dirty work. Back then, the corporation was the Senate, and those were the people that ruled. Right. And but you don't know any of those things. You don't know that they used to have the last person that everybody bows down to and claps for and all this stuff. And that person, does some kind of salute or whatever in front of the big parade stand, and then keeps it moving. And that's the end of the parade. Y'all don't know that used to be the person who was the former ruler of whoever they had taken over. And they wanted to keep those people alive so that the people of Rome could decide, would they live or would they die, or whatever they did. We don't know exactly what they did with their thumbs, but would they live or would they die? That was what you did at the parade. That was what victors did. And victors were supposed to change the story to make sure that Rome was always amazing. That's why if you look up the Punic Wars, or what you call the Punic Wars against the Carthaginians, who are nothing more than people who are Canaanites, and those Canaanites are mixed with Israelite blood. That's really real. That's what it is. You can look on the original coins before they started changing the pictures of them and telling you something different. Thank you for the love, 888. Appreciate you. Thank you. When you look at all those different things, look at that. Look it up for yourself, and you will discover, as you're looking it up, you will see that all these people sitting up there doing this stuff, and these Carthaginians, they actually beat the Romans at one point in the island in between them, right? I believe it was Sicily, right? Which y'all think is Roman land and has this ancient Roman history, when really it was African, right? That's why the buildings look different there, because they don't look like Roman buildings, because they weren't Roman buildings. And that's why when Rome eventually came down and killed Carthaginians, killed them off, did all this stuff, became victorious by killing them off, and then literally tore down every building and salted the earth so that stuff wouldn't grow. Julius Caesar and Julius Caesar's wife, and Julius Caesar had a dream that they needed to correct the situation, so they came back, and now it looks like Rome down there, because that's not the original look. You just don't know. You don't know. Yeah, Caesar, by definition, by what we would call the social construct, he looked like us. So you could say he was dark skinned or he was black. He was still Roman, right? They weren't looking at him as black per se, because a lot of people were black. Justinian and Theodora, hundreds of years later, are dark skinned, right? But anyways, just like what's his name? I always forget his name. Septimius Severus, right? Great Roman emperor, African. He had two sons that sat on the throne for a little bit, African, right? But nevertheless, I'm not going to get all the way into that, but I'm just trying to say, like, there's a lot of stuff we're just not aware of. Why? Because you had it redefined. You said, bro, they were Middle Eastern. Yeah. When did the term Middle Eastern even come into play, by the way? What does Middle Eastern mean? You know who created the term Middle Eastern? You know who created the term Middle Eastern? Who created that term? It wasn't us. That's his story, not our story. Why is it always about color? I just said I didn't even want to focus on that, but we're going to be honest about it when it comes up. Like, why is it that you have to be dishonest about it and say you don't see it? The only reason why people say they don't see it is because they don't want to see stuff that people attach this stigma to color. Let's get rid of the stigma and talk about it. You sound like somebody that might be like, I don't know, were you ever a Ralphie May fan? If you're a Ralphie May fan, right? Ralphie May used to make jokes about color, saying that if we talk about it and I joke about it, then it'll disappear. As far as the stigma, he said, I know that people have different color, but there's a stigma. So let's not act like there's not a stigma attached to it. Yeah, I know, right? Hey, Adam had to shape up. But that's not what I'm doing. I'm just trying to give you a picture, right? I can give you a whole bunch of other pictures that all of them look wrong in some sense, right? But I'm not doing that. I don't have the ability to paint a picture. But thank you very much for pointing that out. But hopefully you're getting what I'm saying, right? I think you're like the 6th, 7th person who's made sure they noticed that, right? Yeah, Adam has a fade. It's interesting. So basically, when you're dealing with these things, right? I'm just giving you fact. I'm saying that there's definition. See, even back then, if you notice, I said yes, he would be considered what we would say today in the social construct of black, although back then he would have been a Roman. So if you notice what I said, I'm not going by modern definitions. I'm not going by modern definition. Matter of fact, if you want to talk about the definition of racism, right? Because we're talking about creation, we talking about the beginning. So let's go ahead and talk about this. What does racism even mean? See, y'all talking about racism and don't even know the definition. Like, let's have an honest conversation about what racism means. Right? You hear what I'm saying? What's the definition of racism? You said you grew up in the 90s and it was just different cultures all together. There was no white versus black in the 90s? No. No. Where did you grow up in the 90s that had no racism? Like, you forgot about Rodney King that fast? You know, Rodney King was based off of a swell of different things, right? Because there had just been, before Rodney King getting beat down in LA. This just in LA, right? The Rodney King beat down that happened. Right before that, a dude had been shot. And I'm not trying to speak ill of any race, but I'm just trying to show you, like, people romanticize things. So we cover it up. They do the Victor thing and they just say nobody hated anybody. So white cops got off. Some of them got off completely from beating Rodney King down. Rodney King was a very bad advocate for us. He kind of made us look bad because he wasn't aware of how these things did, but he was kind of the only thing we had. So we tried to lift him up, but it didn't turn out too well on our behalf. Right before that, in LA, there had been a black guy. This had been happening in little ways, but it really bubbled up where there was a black guy that was shot by either a Chinese or Korean store owner. I can't remember on top of my head. And it basically was following him around the store, which a lot of them do still to this day, thinking that if you're black and you come into their store, they're going to rob you, because we had been taught to be against each other, right? That's all in the night. That's just in one particular place. Now, right? But we're not going to act like there wasn't stuff happening in New York. Like, this is weird when somebody says, like, in the 90s, we just all grew up and everything was peaceful. Where were you at? You were in a vacuum, or you weren't around other cultures. Like, you're not going to tell me that in the 90s, people were already looking at Arabs in a weird way. Like, before September 11th happened in 2001, people were already kind of looking at Arabs with a side eye. You had evangelicals already doing that weird thing that happens. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. When you say that, maybe it's just because you paying attention to something different. Matter of fact, the whole Iraqi war was based off of some racism type tip. But anyways, let's go ahead. It was Korean woman, okay, or Korean person, thank you. So let's deal with this, right? Black girl shot in the store, a whole bunch of violence as far as that in the D. Black Panthers, the remnants of them were getting the brakes beat off them still. Right, OJ. Yeah, see, I didn't even go to OJ. I was trying to stay away from it, but OJ comes right after Rodney King, and OJ, who didn't want to be known as black, he said, "I'm not black, I'm OJ," and white people concurred or agreed. They were like, "Yeah, sure, we'll make you one of us." Then he killed, supposedly, right, allegedly kills Nicole Brown Simpson, and then all of a sudden, he's not one of us anymore. What does OJ do? He immediately, because the black community lifted him up, even though he never lifted us up, right? We tried to lift him up, and then he comes to church right after he wins. He goes to a black church in a dashiki, and then after a month says, "I can't really keep this up anymore." He goes back to trying to live that white mafioso life again. Then gets put in jail because he tried to live the white mafioso life. But real talk, white people don't rock with him like that anymore. Right? But racism, see, this is how definition. See, because originally there was only one race, if you want to go by the social construct, anyways. Right? There was only one race, if you want to go by the social construct, anyway. That's why people try to hit you with there's only one race, is a human race. Problem is now, though, you've allowed the social construct to bubble up out of control. And when people talk about the social construct, you don't put it down. You don't talk about it. Right? But real talk. Well, I guess we could say we lifted up Cochran, sure. But, OJ, you know what OJ was? For real? Right? OJ was for the black community then. Because I remember, see, this is how much people want to act like there was no racism. I remember what it was. I was in school in Virginia, I think. I had just moved to, I was in middle school in Virginia when the OJ trial was going on. People were watching it in their classrooms. I, being somebody who used to despise school, was out in the hallway skipping class. Right? I had my little fake, they had hall passes you're supposed to get. I had faked my hall pass. I got one that they had written dates on. One of the teachers had written dates and signatures and stuff on. So I just wrote my name in there or whatever. So if somebody stopped me, I'd be like, "Hey, my teacher said that." I was out there wilding out, right? I'm walking through the hallway, and Sure enough, you know how I found out that OJ was innocent? I didn't have no cell phone. This is really, cell phones were not on and popping yet, right? This is in the 90s, right? Mid 90s. This is how I found out OJ was innocent. Y'all ready for this? For the person that says there's no racism, this and that. How you doing, Grace? I was in the middle of a hallway. There was a white teacher that was all the way down at the end. It was a really long hallway. I'm all the way on this side, they all the way on the other side, right? I didn't even hear the people cheering. This is what happened, right? Or people even booing or whatever. I found out because they announced it on the PA system, and this was a mostly white school with some blacks sprinkled in it, whatever, right? And it was quiet, and the white teacher, it was like that Family Guy situation. If y'all seen Brian and the black guy who were on the couch, it was like that, but from long distance, right? And I was tall. I stopped growing in middle school. I grew like my last 5.5 inches in my senior year. So I thought I was only going to be 6 feet. I was 6 feet in junior high. So I was big enough that if we was going to scrap, we was going to scrap, right? I was bigger than the teacher, right? But the teacher was all the way there, or I was taller. I was skinny, but whatever. The teacher is all the way down at the end of the hall, and I'm here. And they announce over the loud system, O.J. Simpson has been found. They pause, and then they say, innocent, or it was something like that, right? Was it innocent or he got out, whatever it was, but they made the announcement. O.J. Simpson has been found innocent. Right. And when they announced it, I remember that we looked at each other because I pumped my fist and I was like, yeah, I jumped in the air. I was like, yeah. Because, I'm young. At this point, all I know is black people supposed to support OJ. That's all I knew. Right. And the white guy all the way at the other end, who's a teacher, that I didn't really know, but I knew of him. He was like, oh, and we looked at each other and we started walking towards each other. And we was about to get in each other's face. I don't know if we was going to discuss this OJ thing. And then all of a sudden the bell rang and they let us go home. Right? Like that's how crucial it was. Because for us, you know what OJ represented though, for real, low key, we don't talk about it. OJ represented the fact, like this is why black people still to this day know OJ deep down inside, even if they won't admit it. Deep down inside, black people know OJ probably did it, or at least had a whole lot to do with it and was probably present. This is what happened with OJ. OJ became, for us, we were tired of seeing black people die, just like what's happening today. We were tired of seeing black people die. And back then, it was newspaper, television article, news program, et cetera, et cetera. All we were seeing was black people die because of this and that. And we knew this stuff was up. So when OJ was going through his thing, OJ was kind of like the middle finger to the system. Exactly. It was like payback. I'm not saying it's correct. It's not righteous at all. I all the time repent of it. Right. But till this day, in my flesh, if I be honest, right, that's why you gotta fight after the flesh. You gotta crucify the flesh. Till this day, there's a part of me that goes, yeah, he killed her, but whatever. Because for us, there were so many of us that had been dying and nobody would do anything about it, that we were like, well, the white dudes keep getting, remember, person just shot a black dude in the same city. Person just shot a black dude in the head in their store just for being black and walking around. Nobody cared. Rodney King just gets the break speed off him. Nobody cares, right? Now all of a sudden, OJ Simpson there, and it looks like, as you're reading it and you're looking at it and you're growing it and stuff like that, you're like, it looks like he might get off. Like that was the excitement. It was we didn't like, nobody really even cared. Like matter of fact, that's why people rocked with Johnny Cochran when they were like, that man came up with if the glove don't fit, you must have quit. We were like, okay, we rock with him, because we were so used to lawyers doing that on the opposite side and being like well, he was wearing a hoodie. So what, right? Like, but somebody flipped it and they couldn't do anything about it. Then they found out that the dude was racist, because we always knew there were a bunch of racist cops out here. Like they used to have numbers, now they have codes and stuff like that, 187 and all that stuff, 10-4, et cetera, et cetera. There's certain languages that you do. They would have numbers to where they would say that that were numbers for, hey, we killed black people. They would have numbers that would spit out. I'm not from San Diego, but I know they were in San Diego. I can't tell you what numbers they were over there. I know they were in LA. I know they were over in San Fran. I know they were, San Fran Yeah, even in San Fran back in the day. Now San Fran kind of whitewashed. I know they were in Oaktown. I know they were in Chi-Town. I know they were in Pensacola. I know they were in Miami. I know they were in New York City, right? All 5 boroughs, right? And then they had their own version of it up in upstate New York. I know they were in Boston. Like, we knew this stuff, right? So you see that, wait a minute, like Mark Furman got caught calling him the N-word. We were like, wow, yes. Like, it wasn't about OJ at that point. It was about, can we get any semblance of justice? That's what that was about. And because we didn't have as much social media, everybody was looking at the same few channels, right? Still, we didn't have that many, we were getting cable, but cable still was like 50 channels, right? So everybody was still looking at the same few channels and was like, oh wow, like this about to go down. He about to get off. That's why people still have a big issue. And on the opposite side, OJ was like, oh no. For some people, it was, we always win and we never deal with this. How in the world are we dealing with this? Oh, then for some people, it was betrayal. OJ, you were one of us. How could you? For some people, it was innocent, though. Hey, he's an innocent man. I mean, he's not an innocent man. He should just be able to go to jail. He killed somebody. But Black folk weren't trying to hear none of that as a diaspora, even around the world. Why? Because around the world, we don't get off like that. Around the world, even when we're innocent, we're guilty, right? Right? We see that all the time. So we said, wow, somebody's actually going to end up getting off for something. It was like a middle finger from the whole Black community. Is it righteous? Nope. Is it the truth? Yeah. Do we need to repent from that for people who still carrying that stuff? Yeah, we need to get rid of that. Right? Y'all thought I was just gonna be like, yeah, let's keep on. No, we need to get rid of that. That ain't for us to carry. That's not yours to carry. Lay that down. If somebody killed somebody, you should say that they killed them, and amen. Because I got I guarantee you, a bunch of us got up and got reminded, and it was like nostalgic for us. We went back to a happy place. People can remember where they were. That's how crucial it is. You know how, like, people say, I remember where I was when it was September 11th, stuff like that. People remember where they were when that OJ Simpson thing happened. That was big, right? You believe he's innocent? I don't know. I don't know which way. I lean towards he had some involvement in it. I never really thought he actually did it, because OJ Simpson's never been the person to put his hands on somebody. He always paid somebody to do his dirty work. He mafioso, right? He ain't in the mafia per se, but that's the lifestyle he lived. He mafioso. If you know about OJ behind the scenes, OJ is mafioso. That's basically how that man lives. He lives like a rich white Italian man. That's how he tried to live. so for me, I never really believed that he put his hands on her, but if he was present or if he was in the car waiting for it to be done, that wouldn't surprise me at all. Remember, it's his house that all this stuff really happened in. He used to come there no matter who she was dating and stuff like that, right? But I don't know. I don't know. At the end of the day, the justice system, they do what they do. They did legal stuff. They still got back at him to where he's gonna be paying money for the rest of his life, and then they got to throw him in jail off of something that they set him up for anyways. Like, he was stupid enough to fall for it. It is what it is. After a while, you decided to separate yourself. You keep separating yourself from your people. You kind of have to deal with the results, and that's what a lot of us deal with, because we keep separating ourselves. So we got to get back to ourselves on this journey, right? But racism, even by the word racism, ISM, put an ISM on that word. Racism. What is race? Right? Before it became a social construct, what is a race? Before it became a social construct, what is a race? A race is a competition. On your mark, get set, go. That's a race. ISM makes it a system. And the system used to be between Eurocentric powers. And eventually, Eurocentric powers said, well, these Irish folk and these Russian folk and these Prussian folk and these Slavic people and all this stuff, they don't really do what we need them to do. They can't do what we need them to do. They're not they're not as great. They found out, oh, but these people of color, they can stay in the sun longer, and they got melanin, and they got this, and they got that. So next thing you know, racism becomes about white on top and black on the bottom. That's why you get terms like the doctrine of discovery. See, this is why we got to go back to the original, the doctrine of discovery. Doctrine of discovery. I got to go back to the origin. Why do I got to go back to the origin? The doctrine of discovery. Why? Because the doctrine of discovery says, see, watch this. Y'all ever ask the question, why is it that somebody can come to somebody else's country and say they conquered them? Have you ever asked yourself that? Whether you're black, white, whatever. that's probably hit a lot of us. Like, how do you say that somebody else lives somewhere, but you discovered their country? You discovered their country, but they lived. You discovered their land, but when you came there, there were people that were already living there. How do you discover what somebody already lives in, right? I'm sorry, I'm praying real quick because praying away this rain. Hallelujah. Thank you, Yahweh. All right. Yeah. How do you discover what somebody already lives in, right? Matter of fact, let me just be careful because these are electronics. Let me just be careful. Yeah, I do have faith, but let me just be careful. Hey, is there a towel? Yeah, that's fine. I just prayed away this rain, but this is stuff that we got to be a steward. Got to be a steward. But the rain did stop. Hallelujah. Right, but there was some rain that got on top of the board. Let me make sure that I don't let this rain just sit on top of here. But we praise y'all for it. And if it does come, if it's his will, I'm just asking y'all that you allow us to be out here a little bit longer. Let me cover up this keyboard just in case. But we prayed about it. I'm gonna have faith. I'm not gonna run inside. All right. Let's get this thing together. So sorry about that. But yeah. So where was I at? I'm sorry. Where was I at? Racism, ISM system. I don't know. We were getting back to the original. You got to get to the origin. If you change this stuff, you got to change everything else. I don't remember where we were. So where were we at? Amen. Yeah, we can agree on the prayer. Hold that prayer, that rain back. If we can pray for about an hour and a half to 2 hours more, maybe let's just say 2 hours more to be safe, because we do go long on Sundays. But where was it? Where were we at? I don't know. It might have been a demarcation place. Maybe it's time. Doctrine of discovery. Thank you. Okay, we're almost finished, and then we can get back all the way to what the focus was. Amen. So, doctrine of discovery. That's the reason why people can go ahead and say that we discovered land that we found people on. Now, who made up the doctrine of discovery? Just like we talked about who made up the global cosmology, right? We know that the Pope Leo, made up global cosmology in the 1500s and hires Nicholas Copernicus to do that. Who made up the doctrine of discovery? Roman Catholic Church. The Pope made it up about 1542 or 1552. No, not 15. Sorry, 1452. They had already started using the doctrine of discovery. If you find land, but you cannot find a white Christian male on that land, what were they saying? Right? They were saying if you can't find a white Christian male on that land, they were saying that land doesn't belong, belongs to white Christian males. That's the doctrine of discovery. They put it in. They made it extremely official and put it just out in public in 1493. Why? Because in 1491, the last great Moorish king, it loses to Isabel when Isabel and Ferdinand marry and go from having separate thirds to now they own 2/3. They come against the Moorish king who has the 1/3. They defeat him and kick the Moors out and make some of them suffer and stuff like that. And then in 1491, they go to the Pope and they want Cristobal Colon to go for them. And in 1492, they want for him to be able to go for them at 14 as early as 1482. He had been sailing with Africans, learning about some land that was across to where Africans were already having trade with, which is what he'll discover when he has to bring a Hebrew interpreter over with him. And come to find out that in 1492, they tell him, oh yeah, like we are mixed with these people and we've been trading for centuries. And so he's looking for the land of Asheroth, which is in Second Esdras. So in your Apocrypha that they tell you not to read, they've used that to be able to find out that they needed a Hebrew interpreter to talk to the people that were mixing and also came from West Africa. Right? Like this is origin stuff. Right? But anyways, the doctrine of discovery right? They send Christopher Columbus, and then they put the doctrine of discovery into place in 1493 because they need to make sure when Christopher Columbus comes back with these slaves, these Guanine weapons that he found over there, and they verify that they were made over in Africa, West Africa. And when he comes back and says, these are, in fact, when they say that we own this land and stuff now, the Pope has to make sure it's official. Wherever we go, if there's no white Christian males there, it belongs to us, right? So it's the Pope that gave you the doctrine of discovery. It's the Pope that told you that Yeshua was white, right? Cesare Borgia, right? And told you that his name was Jesus and that Jesus was white. The Pope did that. It was the Pope who said in the 1500s, we need to make sure that we tell people the world is round. You think that it's scientists that did it and that people were getting killed because they were saying the earth was round. No, people were being killed because they were saying the earth was flat. The Pope put that in place. Martin Luther, one of the reasons why he ended up causing so much fuss and a lot of people left in his name, even though he never left the Roman Catholic Church. But a lot of reason why a lot of people call themselves Lutherans is because Martin Luther brought up certain points against the Roman Catholic Church. And the Roman Catholic Church actually was not only not letting people know things that was going on in different languages and stuff, but also they were changing the shape of the world. And we're saying it was now a globe. They hired somebody to do so. And he said, if you do that, that's crazy. Because if you change the way that Yah made the world, you have to change the entirety of the Bible. And people will begin not to believe in it. That this is stuff that's there, right? It's the Pope who said we're going to start the Crusades because his European people that he had powers over were fighting each other so much. And so since they were fighting each other so much, he couldn't go ahead and make sure he kept his power. So he said, y'all killing off any power I have because y'all keep killing off each other. He said, why don't you go to those black and brown people over there and kill them off? They're infidels. And everything that's in over there, the Bible says it's for us. Oh, hey, Kofi go crazy. How you doing? Aquaba, I don't know if you say Aquaba, Habari, Jambo, I don't know, but glad to see you, brother. So, if he has Aquaba at the same, but like these are things that we're not aware of, right? These are definitions. Somebody defined. It was fine the way it was. Somebody defined it. They broke down what was fine. So we got to go back to the origin. Hopefully y'all got that. We got to go back to the origin, to the original, to the principality. We wrestle not against flesh and blood, right? I agree with you that we shouldn't be so stuck on skin color, right? The reason we're stuck on it is because people for so long told us that if we wore our own hair, people for so long told us that if we wore our own beards, people for so long told us that if we wore our own clothing, people for so long have told us if that because of the color of our skin, we are inferior. And so since we've been taught we've been inferior, I didn't even get into manifest destiny, right? Which says that white men are supposed to manifest their culture around the world. I didn't even get into the lost cause, which says the South should rise again. That's why you keep seeing Confederate flags, not just in America and not just in Canada, but you even see them all the way down in Brazil, right? You don't even think about it. You think that you don't even know that's a worldwide phenomenon. You think that's a Southern thing, but that happens all over the world. So you shouldn't be surprised if you see a Confederate flag pop up in New York, right? Like it's a worldwide phenomenon because slavery wasn't just an American thing. It wasn't just a United States thing, right? It's a worldwide phenomenon. It's a spirit. And we don't want to talk about the spirit of things. So of course we get lost only in the color of things and we can't even see the spirit. But if you would acknowledge that the spirit supersedes the physical, you could actually start seeing greater. This is something that's supposed to last for generations to come because they believe it's supposed to last for thousands of years, not just hundreds. Read the Willie Lynch letter more carefully next time. Right. Right. So you got to realize that these things are going on and you got to prepare yourself for the changes that are coming. So, and all these different things. We didn't even mention the white man's burden. The white man's burden, it's a real thing. It says that it is the burden of white men to make sure that they civilize all of the uncivilized. So civilization, all civilization really means is a culture. So when a white person or a back then social construct white person said you were uncivilized, they were just saying you don't fit into our culture, which is why Willie Lynch kept saying the uncivilized N-word. And he would say the uncivilized N-word where he comes from, he protects his woman. Over here in our civilization, he's not. We're supposed to reverse their nature. He used those words. I didn't write it. And even if you don't agree with me that Willie Lynch is real from 1712 and made that speech then, you still have to agree that people were teaching the same thing, because we can find them written all over the place, including with your modern, um, um, you know, father of medicine and all that. They wrote all that stuff in. They wrote books. They still have written in books that women are taking today to become nurses. They still say that black women don't feel pain. Did you know that? That comes from slave times. They still have it in books today. They still have sundown towns today, not thousands of years ago. There's still people that they're finding that they're having to emancipate from slavery in the United States today. You said that, who believes this BS? People that read. Right? I'm not too far right now from in Georgia, where they had to go ahead and save a bunch of Mexican and black people from being enslaved in chattel slavery. They had to do that, what, January, February this year? People who read, go read it. Go look for it now. There's still sundown towns in Alabama. There's still sundown towns in Mississippi. There's still sundown towns in Oregon. It's still in the law. I'm not telling you what I don't know. I'm telling you what you can read for yourself. Read the history of sundown towns. That's why. That's why not too long ago, 60s and 70s, they used to outright have, I forget what color they called it. Was it the blue book, the green book, something like that? And when you went to different towns, especially if you were an artist or somebody on the Chitlin circuit or something like that, but you were supposed to read certain books, and you were supposed to see in those books to see what towns could you go in. So my family and I, y'all know we travel all the time. Guess what I do when I go to certain places? One of the reasons why we ask y'all about stuff, even if we don't stay with y'all, but we ask about, like, hey, where can we go? Which route should we do? What, this and that? Because we know there's certain places to where we've been there, where people look at us strange as soon as we pop up, and we're like, yeah, even though we paid for this, we can't stay here tonight. We should work on a green book. If it's not one already out, there's probably still one already out. you know. But they used to literally, it was published. You can go read this stuff for yourself. But somebody says this is all total BS. No, it's not, because you don't know the origin. If we were in our original state where we all are really one, then we wouldn't be doing this against each other. But when sin enters, what came with sin? Sin enters, and guess what? See, watch this. You can't replenish a family bond. You can't replenish natural affection. You can't subdue behaviors of racism the way that you should have, because you're not perfect anymore, because you decided to be about sin. And rather than deal with things that are life and eat of the tree of life, you keep eating up. Hey, I got to tell you why that's good and evil. It's good and evil according to what you believe, not according to what is. Right? There's parts of Kalamazoo, Michigan that I ain't trying to go to. I ain't trying to deal with policemen in the D. I ain't trying. Like, I mean, that's north, ain't it? That's about as far north as you get. Go up to North Dakota and tell me how they treating black folk up there. Do you even know? Have you even read about it? Have you even visited? I've traveled over to Europe. Go over to Europe and come over with me sometime. We'll go over to Europe together. And when we go over to Europe, when we go over there, I want you to see how people look at me just because I'm dressed the way that I am. I'm not talking about, oh, or surprise, or, oh, you're tall. I'm talking about, look at the signs and look at things like that, and look at places. Go to Belgium. My wife and I, in a hotel in Belgium, she fell asleep. While she was asleep, I was like, I want to see what they watch over here. You know what they were watching? They were watching old American cartoons. This is what their children watch. Old American cartoons from the 1920s, 1930s. And when you watch it, it's stuff like there's a black boy getting a shower from a mammy figure, right? When you only see her from the waist down, and you see, she got the ashy knees and stuff, and she got them slippers on, and she got her apron on, getting ready to work for massa and stuff like that. And it shows the black boy who's getting washed, and he goes into the thing. He comes out his sheets, and because he's black, his sheets are dirty when he gets out with the imprint of his body. He gets put into the water and goes in there, and she gets to scrubbing. He comes up, he's black. She gets to scrubbing. He comes, but she scrubs really, really, really hard. He comes out of there. Now he's white, but it can only last a little bit. Slowly but surely, he becomes black again. He can't get rid of being dirty. Oh, by the way, go over to China, because in China they got commercials over there. And China they got commercials to where they show a black man literally being put inside a washing machine, and he comes out and he's Chinese. Because he was dirt. He was so dirty, he had to be African. He came out, he was clean. Oh yeah, don't you remember that during all the stuff that was going on with You know what I'm saying? We can keep on going. You remember during all the COVID stuff that African nations had to start sending in helicopters and stuff to fly our people out of China to make sure that we can get them to certain places where we could put them on a runway and bring them home because they were killing us and saying that we were the reason why COVID happened. What year was that? Isn't that COVID-19? But y'all didn't care about it until it was COVID 2020. And we had to start getting them out in 2020 and 2021. Wasn't that is that thousands of years ago? Is that ancient history? Is that 100 years ago? Some of y'all act like it was 600 years ago, 500, 400 years ago, even though the 1800s ain't 400 years ago. When did that happen? See, but you don't want to go back to the origin. In our origin, sure, we were all, see, watch this. Here's something you don't want to talk about, but the older all of us get in our culture, the darker all of us get in our culture, which means that in our blackness, we're all one. If anything, we should talk about our blackness to become one. And we should talk about the fact that you have melanin too. Just your melanin has selenium in it. I mean, I'm sorry, has a sulfur in it. Mine has selenium in the center of it. Can we trace when the break off happened? And can we see that it still was a break off? At some point, we still were together. Why are you afraid to talk about color? Because the more color we talk about, the more oneness. Because black, all it is bringing as much color as it is together. And the darker black you get, the more color you have to give. Well, Santa Claus, is based off of 3-4 different people they put together. And you probably don't want to deal with St. Nicholas because that's somebody who's supposed to conquer you. And he's also in the sleigh because he's based off of Odin's character as well, because Odin went around in the sleigh. I'm not going to touch the smell piece. That's a setup. But I feel you. I see you, but I'm not going to touch it. I can't. Hopefully you see why, right? But I'm just saying, these things are there, right? And we don't want to talk about it. We don't want to be real about it. But in all honesty, there's a reason why, right? Like there's a reason why this stuff is there, right? So even going back to what we believe, all this stuff, you know what? And we talked about this before. Now getting into this because we would be remiss if we went all around this stuff and still didn't deal with this first marriage, right? And all these things that are happening. You know what the biggest thing against your people are? The enemy wants against you more than anything else is for you to remain non-married and not married to your culture, not married to your hubba, not married to your wife, not married to your husband. Have as many babies as you want, but don't give them security where they can see two parents. That's part of the plan. You said, why does it matter if Adam is black or if he's white? I'm just going off of what is. The further back in history, the darker all of us get. It doesn't matter. And if it doesn't matter, why not tell the truth about it? Matter of fact, if you know the difference between Adam, which is what you call him Adam because you don't know Adam is not a name. It's actually just telling you who this first kind of person who has this first power is. He's not even named because he lost his authority because he was kicked out the garden. When you lose your authority, the word Sham or Shem or even name, it means authority. So he didn't even have a name, right? We just know where we came from, but we don't even know how to name it. And we don't, right? Because that name has no authority. Right? Like that's why you don't say Satan. You're supposed to say the Satan or At-Satan or At-Shatan even because he doesn't have a name. He's kicked out of heaven. Right? But also too, if you look up the term Adamach, so you know Adam, and maybe you've looked up what that means, but you don't know what Adamach means. Adamach is dark, rich, nutrient earth. Right? And the spirit had to be put inside that, and then he was breathed into, he became a living soul. So is it important because I want to be right about something? No. Is it important because it's the truth? Yes. And why not talk about the truth? Now, just because he's black, does it mean that you're not a human being? No. Well, first of all, I'm not talking about Jesus. Jesus is a nickname, and it's not even who Yahshua is, or even a Manava'an who you should call Emmanuel, right? But Middle Eastern, like watch this. If you were to go to my TikTok channel, I think on this very channel, you might have to scroll through a few videos, but there's a video that you'll find, and it shows what Israelites looked like in 1925. You come back and tell me if Israelites that from 1925 could possibly look like the people you call Israelites today. Remember, Israel doesn't exist until the 1940s, right? 1948, I believe. Is it 1948 is when they officially became this new modern Israel. So go and look at what they look like in 1925. And you tell me if the people that say they're Israelites today are those very same people. You said Jesus was a Druid? No, because he didn't believe in paganism. But that's nice, though. He told us not to be pagan. Like literally by word, he said, don't be pagan. So But you got to comprehend, right? But even I know what you're talking about, because race is a social construct. It's a social construct because somebody taught you, like just like Charles Darwin did. I didn't even mention him, but evolution. Charles Darwin, he writes a book, what, the theory of evolution. I'm sorry, the origin of species, colon, the theory of evolution, and the rest of the title of the book is what, the struggle for survival of favored races. And then he wrote in his book how white people evolved from certain things, black people evolved from certain things, everybody else in between evolved from certain things, and so it's survival of the fittest, to go along with what? Manifest Destiny. Rudyard Kipling, who wrote the Jungle Book, he legit said, hey, he wrote a letter to America, said, you guys are going to be the next big world power. Please make sure that you guys keep teaching about manifest destiny. Somebody went over to France when France came up with the first IQ test, where they were trying to prove that people from Paris were better than the country bumpkins around, right? So in essence, it was still like, what is it? Blanc Garçon versus Blanc Petit still. Or if you don't know about that, that's like in Haiti when they had the big whites and the little whites. Even white people had beef with each other, right? So it was never always about just the race. It was always about certain white people on top being over everybody else, certain families being over everybody else. That's what it's always been about. But when I mention it, you don't recognize that. I'm talking about something that's always been. Even before it was white versus black, it was Greek versus Kemetic. It was Roman versus Greek. It was Roman versus Etruscan, right? It was Roman versus Latin. That's why they speak Greek and Latin. They had a lot of respect for those that they had to conquer and defeat and take their stuff and make it, and what they claim, make it better. Which is why you like to be romantic, even though you might not notice some things that you call a romantic couldn't have happened if they weren't chemetic. That's why you have chemistry, but you don't call it chemistry. But chemistry came before chemistry, because chemistry is what chemetic people used to study life, because they believed that they had melanin in certain things, that they were homegrown as far as the Garden of Eden type process. So they believed they should study themselves. But I can't even get to marriage because you're so stuck on black and white. It's not me that's stuck on black and white. I just mentioned it. But if y'all want to talk about it, we can. You said you were wondering because most kings in the Bible had many wives. Yeah, and how did that work out for any of them? All of them were called disobedient when they did that. And it was something that we didn't look favorably upon. We accepted it. Kemetic people accepted it. Cushitic people accepted it. Israelites did, because they were like, well, I guess we're getting a bunch of power. Right? But it was never accepted. It was never cool. Every time you've had multiple relationships and all that, and people having multiple wives and stuff, it always had drama attached. Always. And Yahshua himself answered it when he said the purpose is to have one wife, right? Stop trying to figure out how to divorce. Stop trying to figure out how many girls you can have, right? It never worked out well. Just because something's mentioned in the Bible doesn't mean that it's where you're supposed to be. You know, sin is mentioned in the Bible, but you ain't supposed to sin. You know what I'm saying? So get into the marriage piece now, right? And all these things that we talking about. And thank you for the questions, by the way. I'm not anti the questions. We appreciate them for real, right? So getting to you said it's not true. Okay, show me the marriage where somebody had multiple wives that worked, right? Besides going to Yahshua or besides going to Yahweh, to where it's trying to tell you about a spiritual principle and using a physical principle to explain it, where we're all supposed to be one body and many mansions and stuff. Show me in the Bible where you see that somebody got married, had multiple wives, and that marriage ended up being great. No problems. Now I know there's no such thing as a perfect marriage, but I'm talking about that because they had multiple wives, they had less beef and stuff like that. You won't find it. You won't find it. Right? Because that's not what you're supposed to be, right? And even if you're trying to be one of these people, real talk, King David, right? He had multiple wives. Solomon almost didn't get on the throne because he had multiple wives, right? Because he took on Bathsheba as his wife and killed off Uriah. Still to this day, the Bible and still in our culture, we don't refer to that as David's son. We refer to that as Uriah's wife, right? Or it might be David's son, but it's not Uriah. It's not David's wife. It's Uriah's wife. Still to this day, right? Look in your scripture. It doesn't give David credit for that because David had messed up. David almost lost everything. David's family wound down. His son came and started having sex with all of David's wives and concubines and stuff. Like, remember? And his son ends up dying because of it. David ends up killing his man because he killed his son. David ends up being in the cave, thought he was going to lose everything, right? Psalm 51 verse 10, created me a clean heart. That word clean means legal. It means pure. That word heart, it means love. It means passion. Created me a legal or a lawful heart again again and renew within me, bring back to me a right spirit. I got too many things going on. King Solomon, his son, would then take on the same spirit. Having the wisdom of Yah would still take on that generational curse that would end up having more problems than his own daddy did. So you're not going to find it. Even when you talk about, oh, well, what about Abraham? And you got Isaac. Yeah, he had Isaac and Ishmael. Ishmael had to get kicked out and had to go into the wilderness. Right? Like, people just want to do this. And may I say this, for people who try to be real deal husbands, y'all call yourself men and y'all want to be husbands and this and that or whatever. For real, why, even if it was legal for you, even if it was lawful for you to do and have as many wives as y'all want and stuff like that, right? Before there was a Roman Catholic Church, there was such thing as the Tanakh, or the word of Yah, and most of the books that existed way before the Roman Catholic Church came into being, because the Roman Catholic Church doesn't come into being and get power over Western Rome until 438 AC. So you're still kind of off on that, right? Even Constantine and all that, he comes after the stuff is written. Nevertheless, though, you know the reason why I couldn't, even if it was lawful for you to have more than one wife, I still couldn't suggest it to brothers anyways, because y'all don't know how to take care of yourselves yet, let alone how to take care of a wife. We've already spoken on Enoch. If you want, you can go and look on the series. We got it on YouTube not that many days ago. If you look it up, we talk about the Watchers. We had a whole thing just talking about the Watcher. Well, not the whole thing, but a lot of it talked about the Watchers, right? We even talked a little bit about it today. But real talk, so even if you could have multiple wives, if you can't take care of yourself, why am I trying to make sure that I help you out with multiple wives? Who built the pyramids? They were built in Kush. They were built in Kemet. They were built by Cushitic and Kemetic people, and there's other ancient tribes that we know still today have the same marks on them that they had back then when they helped to build them, right? And if you want to, right? And if you want to talk about Israelites, I don't know for sure if they built them or not, but they might have had a little something to do with it. Who knows? It's not mentioned in the Bible, so I wouldn't even put two and two together. Other people try to put 2 and 2 together. I don't, right? But you could. We don't know for sure. We know that they were around at the time that some of this stuff was being built, because we know they were around at the times of Ramses. Ramses II is when they rolled out. But I'm just trying to say, all these people trying to have multiple, I want multiple men, I want multiple women. Stop slut shaming me. Stop saying that I'm this and blah, blah. It's just my son. Okay, whatever. You know what? That's somebody who doesn't have the ability to be disciplined. See, I'm a disciple. And when I'm a disciple of something, I'm disciplined in it. Right? When I'm a disciple, I'm disciplined in it. Right? Once again, going back to now, Barashat, to Genesis. When it says in Barashat Bet, to Genesis chapter 2, when it says specifically that Adam's dealing with some things. How you doing, V? Thanks for being on. It says that Adam's dealing with some things, right? Right? When it says Adam's dealing with some things. I'm not a disciple, but I'm not a disciple according to what you want. What I'm a disciple of is bigger than you. So I'm not about condemnation. Romans chapter 8, verse 1 said not to worry about people such as yourself who have no clue about what I am and could easily just look up what I'm about first, since we got all this stuff recorded, and they could come back and tell me if I'm a disciple or not based upon knowledge rather than your hatred of whatever it is that I present to you in a few seconds. Right? But at the end of the day, right, I'm not worried about all that stuff. I'm a disciple, right? And so somebody who's discipled or disciplined in something, right, they don't come out of it. So as a disciple, I'm disciplined. I don't worry about having multiple wives because I'm trying to be disciplined with one. See, a lot of this stuff is just lack of discipline, right? A lot of it is lack of discipline. Like, you can't be disciplined to get it right with one. You can't be disciplined to get yourself. In our culture, people talking about biblical culture and all this stuff. In our culture, of the culture, Yashtil's culture, etc., the culture of Shamayam, the culture of Alacham, the culture of Yahava, Yashva, Vakakudash, etc. In our culture, are you supposed to even get married if you're not a husband or you're not a wife? Real talk. In our culture, are you supposed to even get married if you're not a husband or if you're not a wife? See, in your culture, or what you're trying to take on, since you're not disciplined in the right thing, you try to get married to become a husband or wife. But sex is marriage, marriage is sex. So you have to be qualified for marriage. You have to be qualified for two to become one. You think that you walk down the aisle and have a ceremony so that you can have sex. not realizing that you're supposed to be a husband or a wife. Where in your Bible? See, here's the discipline. Where in your Bible does it mention wearing a white dress and walking down the aisle? I'll wait for it because people keep saying, I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm not disciplined in this, right? You show me. Where in your Bible? Show me in your Bible. Read your Bible. It'll bless you. Where in your Bible does it say walk down the aisle? Help me out. I'm looking. I'll wait. Show me where I'm wrong. You show me the verse that says get your veil together. You show me the verse that says, hey, don't make sure you take care of your family and buy land. Spend $100,000 on a wedding day. You show me in your verse that says that you need to make sure that you put a ring on it. I have a ring, but I don't wear a ring because it's biblical or whatever. I wear a ring, even though actually we had rings in our culture and stuff too. But I'm not wearing a ring. Like where does it say jump the broom? Where does it say, right? I'm just being honest. See, because sisters, this is what they taught you. They taught you more about this. When you were a little girl, you're supposed to be raised to become a wife. And you're supposed to be qualified as a wife before your husband finds you. He's supposed to find a wife. You're supposed to be qualified to be a wife when he finds you. But you were taught about walking down the aisle. When some of y'all were 6, 7, 8 years old, you already knew how your wedding was going to go. And none of it is biblical. Not one piece of that is biblical. You know where you got that from? You got that from Queen Victoria, who was pasty white, put on a white dress, put on a white veil, had her train because she was royalty. That's where the train comes from. The train went all the way down. Some people say it was like half a mile behind her. All the kingdom came out. Well, technically she was the Pope. Whoever the Queen or King is of England is supposed to be the Pope of Protestantism. A lot of y'all don't even know that, but they had somebody else come, and bless her or whatever, and then from there she became what? Right? She became a wife. But you're supposed to be a wife before you get married in the Bible, right? Proverbs chapter 18. Watch this. Let me put two verses together that a lot of us aren't even familiar with. Proverbs 18, 21 and 22. They say what? What they say? Proverbs 18, 21 and 22. What do they say? 22, but I'm going to put 21 before it. Now, both of these verses, but you don't know they go together. Proverbs 18, 21. Death and life is in the power of the tongue, and those that love it will eat the fruit thereof. Proverbs 18, 22. He who finds a wife finds a constitutional, what you call a good thing, and what? And obtaineth favor from Adam. Right? Now, Proverbs 18, 21 and Proverbs 18, 22, put them together. Right? It's saying that death and life, somebody who speaks can speak either death or life. It's all in the power of your tongue. And if you love it, if you act upon it, if whatever you act upon, if you act upon death, you'll eat the fruit. If you act upon life, you'll eat the fruit. Right? So be careful what you love or act upon out of your tongue. Love is action. Act upon the love. So whatever you love or however you love, you can love death towards your spouse, you can love hate towards your spouse. And if you're a wife, you will speak life towards it. That's why the next verse says, he who finds a wife finds a constitutional. That's what that word good is really saying, a constitutional thing. They find something of constitution. They find something that's going to bless them. Every word she speaks is going to be constitutional. It's going to be something to build up. It's going to be something that's towards your mission. See, every husband should have a mission. And when Adam had Eve given to her, he was in his mission. He was in his work. He was in his calling. And when he realized through his calling that he didn't have a helpmate in his work, he was able to find a wife out of that and was able to obtain favor from the Lord. This is culture. But people are saying, oh, you don't know what you're talking about, this and that or whatever. That's why your relationships are messed up. Thank you for the love, y'all. I appreciate it. Right? That's why the relationships are messed up. Because you don't even see it. You're looking for a woman trying to make her your wife, and you're looking for a man hoping he'll become a husband after you get married, but he's not qualified to go between your legs because sex is marriage, marriage is sex. He ain't qualified for that until he's a husband. And just because he's a husband doesn't mean he's qualified to be your husband. Do you even know what you're supposed to look for? Do you know what questions you're supposed to ask? I'm not talking about Mary Magdalene right now. I apologize. I don't really have time. As you can see, we've gone all over the place with other things. I apologize for not being able to get there, right? If you're talking about the whole Yashra, or now you're really dealing with Jesus, not Yashra, because Jesus is the fictional character. So now we're going to take Mary Magdalene and make her the fictional character. I don't know if we're marrying the two together or what, but that's not what we're dealing with right now. I apologize. But I think I know where you're going down the road of, but I can't really go down that road right now, right? I don't have the time for it. Not I don't have the time for you. I just don't have the time for it, right? But I'm trying to show you, like we talking about this stuff, we don't comprehend what it's saying. Watch this. In your marriage, the same thing you're gonna go to Proverbs. Proverbs 18, verse 21 and 22, we just talked about. Why have you been in church? Some of y'all about to go to service today. Why have you been in church and you've never read Proverbs chapter 1, verse 3? Well, you need a lawful wedding. Lawful and legal ain't always the same thing. You can write up your own marriage constitution. You can write up your own marriage contract. You don't have to follow it's legal and it's lawful, right? You just go to the state because you think you have to. You can write a contract amongst yourselves and then bring that contract before any judge. Just make sure that you know how to write it so that it's airtight to protect each other, but also to make sure that you hold each other accountable. So you should have a marriage contract and a marriage constitution, and you should be able to see both at certain times during the day. So when y'all start having these arguments, you can look at your agreement and be like, hey, we promise when we get in the argument, this is what we're supposed to do, and this is what we're supposed to do. Why are you breaking the contract? See, you just get a contract that says you don't. It's like people don't realize this. Your marriage contract to the state, all it's saying is that hey, the state allows you to have sex, it allows you to have children, and that's why when you break up and all of a sudden y'all try to do whatever, the state is saying, hey, come to us, right? Even if you don't get married by us, come to us and say, hey, you getting a divorce or you getting a breakup or y'all been together, but and come to us, and we're going to tell him how much money he got to pay or how much money she got to pay, so that the state can be in charge of your marriage. You don't know how that works. That's how that works. That's why they want you to do that. The state is not worried about your spiritual involvement. The state is not worried about how much you prayed for your spouse. The state is not worried about if you spoke kind words over your spouse. They don't care about none of that. The state's sometimes not even concerned if that baby belongs to him. Right? Like we have arguments about stuff about the state and blah blah, and you should do this, and you don't know what you're talking about, and all these different things, and we're not even aware of like how wild this stuff is. We've been taught a lot of foolishness, and we believe the foolishness. We believe that the foolishness is true. We believe the foolishness. You don't have to do that. Matter of fact, if you were to get married, right, and you were to go walk down the aisle, get your paperwork done, all that, and y'all don't have sex, and y'all come before the judge, and you say, "Hey, he won't have sex with me." The judge says, "Is that true?" He'll say, "Yeah." The judge will annul the marriage because if you don't consummate, the marriage never existed. Sex is marriage, marriage is sex. But they keep telling you have sex. Why are you worried about marriage? Have sex with as many people as possible. Legally speaking, every time you have sex, that's marriage. That's why even if you don't bring it before them, but you end up having a child, that judge will honor that marriage, that sex, and say, because you brought it to me, thanks for bringing it to me. Now, since that person is not a part of the corporation and is not a sovereign, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna bring them in too, and I'm gonna force them to make sure, even if I don't know what's going on, even if you all have something, even if they're willing to pay something, even if I'm gonna force them to pay less than what they want, because now the state's got to get its cut too. It doesn't matter. I'm gonna make sure that I put my authority over it because you gave me authority. But once again, you shouldn't have to worry about divorces or cheating and all that because you should be pre-qualified as husbands and wives. I'm not saying it will never happen, but it would happen a lot less. The problem is that we don't even know what a husband or wife is, right? What qualified Adam to get a wife was the fact that he was in his work, not his job, but his work. What qualified Adam was that he was not in his job, he was in his work. What qualified Adam for Eve was not that he had good credit. What qualified Adam for Eve was not that he had good hair. What qualified Adam for Eve was not that even Eve existed. So Adam was never over Eve. Adam was over the environment. And y'all think that great leaders are over people, but they're not. Great leaders are over environment. What kind of environment Adam created is what qualified him for Eve. That is why a lot of men comprehend that they need to get their bachelor pads and start making them look a little better. Why? Because men don't care about silk sheets or satin sheets or thread counts. or any of that. You know why he gets that stuff? He gets that stuff because he knows that a wife would care about satin sheets and thread sheets and silk sheets and all that. A man don't really care, right, about having to always make sure that he has the greatest looking car that looks sleek and sexy. Why does he get a car that looks sleek and sexy? Because he knows that a woman might see a sleek and sexy car and say, he might be able to secure me. That's the reason why that's there. How you doing, Sister Carrie? He's not doing those things because of what you think it is, sister, right? If you would support him and say, I'll support your vision and your dream, and you can go ahead and be somebody who saves up money and invests money in the right way and make sure you get us a home, and I don't have to have a gaudy wedding, but I can go ahead and make sure that I have land and different things like that to begin, he would start securing you in a whole different way. The reason why he's doing those things is because he feels like it attracts you. If you were to tell him that what you wanted, sister, was something that was about his work and his calling in his community, then he would focus on his work and his calling and his community. I'm not saying that it's all on you. I'm just trying to get you to see what qualified Adam for Eve was that Eve was even looking for Adam. See, a lot of women are looking for a husband, when the husband is supposed to be in his work, and in his work he'll find a wife. You just got to be a wife, be pure, be where you're supposed to be, love Yahweh, be in his word, make sure that you're a daughter of the Most High, make sure that you present yourself in the divine nature and divine spirit that you have, make sure that you're in your intuition and you're not apologetic for it, make sure that you are valuable within yourself, make sure that you don't go off of what the world does. And when a husband finds you, a husband will change up who he is to make sure that he's willing to die for you, to make sure that that's there, because he knows that a wife will help him to reach his mission. Because you're not in submission, you're in submission, right? You're not in submission, you're not submitting to a man, you're submitting to a mission. Praise Yah. You're not submitting to a man, you're submitting to a mission, right? And you keep looking for men instead of looking for missions. What is the mission that you've been praying to the Most High about? May I ask that, sisters? We focused on the men yesterday, so we got to get both of us in. The day before, 2 days ago, we focused on the sisters in the evening on Friday. Yesterday, we focused on the men and the rising. Today, we're going to focus on both. Sisters, what have you been praying for? What is the mission you've been praying for? Because if you're looking for a mission, start submitting to the mission before you get the man. Submit to the mission. And when you find a man in his mission, you'll find a man in his work. And what you'll find is that the man who works in that mission submits to the same mission that you'll submit to, which means you'll never have a problem with submission, because you weren't looking for the man, you were looking for the mission. That's a word right there. Come on, somebody. That's a word right there. Like, if you would stop trying to find the man and would first say, what is the mission? And when you submit to the mission, you will find that you will watch this. You will have your heart guarded. You will have your ear gates guarded. You will have your eyes guarded. You will be tunnel focused. You will be looking only at mission. So any man that you even see, he's only going to be in mission, which means you'll only see a man who's in his work. Hallelujah, right? Like, this is why we got to go back to the origin. We wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities. I'm feeling this thing today. I'm feeling this thing. I'm going to try and only go 30 minutes over, because Sundays we try to go 30, 40 minutes, 45 minutes over at the most. But I'm feeling this thing today, right? You might, even if you can't say the whole time, you might need to go get the recording of this on YouTube and come back and listen to it. I'm telling you, if you have not been, you've been trying to submit to the man. You've been trying to find the man to submit to. That's always the question I get. How do I submit to a man? I'm not great at submitting to a man. You're not supposed to submit to the man. You're supposed to submit to the mission. It's called submission. Subdue the mission. Be subdued by the mission. Live for the mission. When you get yourself gaudy and makeup and everything like that, fine, do what you do. I feel like, sisters, y'all are beautiful without the makeup, but I know, people have told you gotta have it. I know it goes back to the times of Kemet and all that, right, and stuff like that. But y'all look beautiful without the lashes. Y'all look beautiful without the makeup, stuff like that. But I get it, get your makeup on, stuff, all those things. But if you decide to do that, fine. Who are you putting the makeup on for? Are you putting it on so that you'll make sure that everybody else likes what you have on? Are you putting it on hoping that some man will see it and like what you have on? Or are you putting it on because it's for you? You got to ask yourself that question. I'm sorry, Trucker's Wife, I saw you earlier. I didn't say hello, right? You got to ask yourself, am I putting that on? Is that for the mission? Is the makeup for the mission? Is the makeup just because people say wear the makeup? If Is the dress for the mission, or you just saw somebody was wearing that dress, you liked it, and you found it on sale or whatever, you decided to get it. Still got shoes that you bought that you ain't never worn. Still got an outfit together that you said you were going to slay him in that outfit, but you still ain't put the outfit on because you never had a mission to go with the outfit. You bought it without thinking about it. So guess what? If you run into a husband and the husband sees that you do stuff like that, right? He probably going to leave it alone. Not a man. I'm not talking about a man. See, y'all looking for men. I'm talking about you need to find a husband, but the husband's going to find you in his work, and you're going to find him in his work, right? The work. What is the submission? If you're submitted to a mission, his work causes him to have a mission. And so what's going to happen is you're connecting over the mission. You're not connecting over what it looks like. All right, shop, take care of yourself. You're not connecting over what it looks like. That's your problem. I like them hips. She might not, them hips, may fade. Is she going to take care of mission? Right? I like the way she keep the nails there. Right? There going to be days that you're going to wake up and the nails ain't going to look there. Look like that. She keep wearing them heels where she pressing them toes together. They definitely ain't going to look like that forever. Forgive me. I'm sorry. Right? I'm just saying, right? We've been looking for all these different things. Oh man, I like the way them lashes look. Even though I still, yet to this day, have ever heard a man tell me that he's looking for a girl with lashes. But regardless, I like the way them lashes look. Like them lashes come off and come on. Can she support a mission? That's what men are looking for. Oh, Sister Valisa, what's up? We've been praying for you, trying to get in touch with you. Hopefully everything's well. Right? Glad to see your name pop up. Right? We've been looking for a mission. Submission. People do this stuff all the time, right? People look to try and buy watches, but you can't buy more time. So you need to make sure that your time is part of your mission. If it's wasting my time, then it's not part of my mission, right? If it's not part of my mission, I won't give time to it, right? You treat it like if I buy the watch, if I get everybody see that it's gaudy and this and that, the watch don't mean nothing. And the only reason you can buy the watch is because you were submissive to the mission, right? People buy beds but can't get no sleep. Why? Because you can get the best bed, you can get the Tempur-Pedic and all that stuff. But if your mind is always rolling over and over and over again, you can't sleep. What does that matter? Right? Because you have no mission. You staying up at night like, what am I going to do next? What am I going to do tomorrow? What am I going to do? People with missions, they sleep comfortably. You know why? Because they grind and they make sure that every day that I got a vision that I'm headed towards. So every day I got a purpose to fulfill something, and I put the value on it that it must get done. So by the end of the day, when I go to sleep, even if I don't get everything done I'm supposed to, you know what? When I go to sleep, I sleep hard. You know why? Right? I'm not saying that you should never have any dreams and visions, but I don't have as much dreams and visions. I don't know if, some people, that's their gift to have dreams. I can interpret dreams, but I don't really have dreams like that. Maybe that's why, because I do a lot of interpretation. So it'd be really hard for me to be dealing with mine and then dealing with everybody else's. But I don't really have dreams like that. I have vision. You know why? I don't really have, because when I sleep hard. You know why? Because I work everything out. I'm in my work from sunup to sundown with my family, with my friends, with SOC, with myself. So when I go to sleep, it's well done. Get your rest. I'm not saying that that's the only reason why you have dreams. I'm just saying for me, like I put in. You know what I'm saying? You said the body fades from its beauty over time. Will he still love you through that? Yeah. And by the way, that's why beauty is in the eye of the beholder, right? And also beauty is not only skin deep, right? Beauty is not only hips deep. It's not only breast deep, right? It's not only what she can do in the bedroom deep. Because there's going to be times where you might be busy. My call might say that, hey, I might not be able to get it as much as I want to get it right now. Oh, I got the bee hovering around me. That's weird. Right? But that's my call. You said, should you remarry? Bring that before the Most High. Right now, purify yourself. Purify yourself. And see what you have in your house, right? What scripture is that? I can't remember which one. Is it Samuel? The Chronicles? Samuel? I feel like it's one of the Samuels. I could be wrong. What do you have in your house? Start seeing what you have in your house first. Purify yourself and be your husband's wife. mourn, and you'll be comforted by your husband and be his wife. It starts there. If you, right, being a wife, if it comes to where, you know, it's time for you to find somebody else to be with, the Most High will make that happen, or He'll allow it to happen, or you'll see it for yourself. Really, marriage is your choice, anyways. Hopefully, you just, allow your husband to make some suggestions to you. But marriage is really your choice, right? And I offer help for people for things like that. But marriage at the end is your choice. I know we use the term. I'm just using the term that's given. People talk about spiritual father, things like that. So even as a spiritual father of some sort or whatever, like, I'm gonna look over your husband real big, and I'm gonna look over your wife real big, right? Because you're gonna be with my son and daughter, no matter what age. Some of them older than me, right? Don't matter. You ain't just gonna give us somebody and I ain't look them over, and we're gonna ask some questions. But yeah, you get yourself together. But what qualified Adam for his wife was his work, and he already had authority. See, sisters, you got to recognize if you come to a husband. I'm not talking about a man. There's a lot of little boys or men with little boy mentality. I'm sorry, what you said? You said if a man doesn't show up for paternity court, baby automatically his. Yeah, right. The system is set up, right? And even if it shows, there's some states where even if it shows that the baby's not his by paternity test, like in New York, right? I think you in New York, right? In New York, um, I don't know if they changed the law or not, but I know still recently in time in New York, if a man had if he was taking care of a baby for like a certain amount of years, that baby got to be like 3 years old or something like that, and he was in a relationship with the girl long enough, they'd be like, that's your baby. You want to take care of him for the rest of your life, you know. And hopefully, if you were raising a child 5 6 years, and that baby knows you as dad, hopefully you would stay in that baby's life anyways. But what I'm saying is the court's gonna come in and they're gonna change everything up because you gave the authority to them. That's why you cover yourselves, right? Sisters, you get, even when sisters are getting payment, you still get raw deals sometimes. In Ohio, they do that as well. Yeah, in Ohio, they do. They sure do. I was dealing with some guy. We were trying to help him out, not to get out of payments, but we were trying to help him as far as making sure visitation stuff was there, right? But there's a lot of brothers that deal with heartache with that. But when it comes to a husband, when it comes to a wife, we would deal with less of those things. We wouldn't even have to. That wouldn't even be necessary conversations for us if we were already pre-qualified, right? Adam was already pre-qualified. Adam was already over an environment. Sisters, hear this and hear this well. When Eve came into the equation, Adam was already pre-qualified. When Eve came into the equation, he was already pre-qualified. Right? That means that he already had authority. That's why you got to figure out if your missions are the same, or at least your mission can be encapsulated by his so that he can uplift your mission as well. Right? Adam was already, hear what I'm saying? Adam was already in authority. So when you coming into this, you get to choose, right? He's supposed to seek you and to see if you will accept his resume. A lot of times y'all don't have no resume. We showed that a long time ago, right? Where a lot of sisters will be out here and this man goes on a date with you. You go on dates because you believe that dating is biblical. It is not. But you go on dates, and dates literally mean like you have a date to completion. So he ain't thinking past a date, and neither are you, right? Like you think that it's a date and you try to go by a date, and neither and a date means that it's dated, right? If you were to go to the store and you were to go and get some milk, right? For those of you who still drink milk, but even if you do almond milk or whatever, right? If you would go to the store and you were to get yourself some milk, what happens? If you were to get yourself some milk, what happens? What happens is you'll see a date on there. That means that if you don't drink the milk by this date, then it'll be expired. When you go out on a date, you were going out saying that, hey, we'll go out. Our contract is only to the end of this date. And then once it's dated over, we'll see if we want to do another date and add on to the contract. Right. So it's another contract, then another contract, then another contract, then another contract. And then if you had enough contracts where you say all these contracts have gone well, y'all say, you know what? Okay, cool. Maybe we'll walk down the aisle together. Right. But all you're doing is going up to the expiration of each date. Now you take that same dating mentality into your relationship and you say, if I don't get exactly what I want, I will leave. I'm not saying just cheating. Y'all act like cheat people leave over cheating the most. People leave over money the most. But you're supposed to be in this till death do you part, better or worse, sickness and health, and richer or for poor. That's what y'all write out in y'all stuff, right? So when y'all write all this stuff out, you don't even live by the rich or poor. What if both of y'all have excellent jobs and all of a sudden COVID happens and now you're trying to struggle to get back on your feet? Are you going to leave each other? That's not each other's fault. I'm telling you, as somebody who's been out there on the streets, some of the greatest examples of staying together, not examples of marriage per se, but some of the greatest examples of staying together in marriage has been when I've seen people out there who drugged, alcohol, whatever. She got children. He out there. They both homeless, but somehow, some way, he find her a shelter. He can't even go to the same shelter. Right? Might not only see her once or twice a week, but he gets to see his wife. They push through that for years, sometimes 10 years, loving on each other. People with money, they can't get a job for a couple months. They were living paycheck to paycheck. All of a sudden, they lose stuff because they weren't faithful to the process, never invested, never did anything. And now they're like, I got to get rid of you because, you didn't support my dreams and stuff. No, y'all hit rough times. What happened to your richer for poorer statement? Y'all said that before everybody and witnesses. That's what y'all said. It was before your God and all these witnesses. Now all of a sudden you hit some rough times. And now all of a sudden you can't stay with them. I don't want nothing to do with that. That's not marriage. Sex is marriage. Marriage is sex. Marriage is also an institution. The person you having sex with, that's an institution. That's an institution. You ever thought about that? Marriage is an institution. It's an institute. Y'all like to go to higher learning institutions? It's an institute. Right? You love it when you see on the sign, this company has been an institution. It's been around since 1875. You love seeing that. You think they had no rough times? You don't think they had any tough times? Yes, I'm Avda. Yes. Do you think that you think that they didn't have months where they were in the red? Matter of fact, sometimes they went in the red on purpose so they could make sure that they remained in the black for the next few years. Amen. That's a great statement. And hang in there. Your husband incarcerated. We got family that deals with that too. Right? Incarcerated for I don't even know how much longer they got. I think it's been at least, it's been at least I don't know. I don't want to put all our business out, but it's been a long time. But you push through, especially if the person went off of something, because a lot of brothers, they go to jail out of domestic disputes. I'm not talking about just putting their hands on it. Like, a lot of brothers steal. Like, why a lot of sisters will stay with the brother who gets in trouble for stealing? A lot of y'all be like, she crazy, this and that. Well, you know why she'll stay with the brother for stealing? Because the brother was stealing to make sure she could eat. You know what I'm saying? Like, real talk. Like, so why not? Even in that, I know, look, it's not right to steal. It's not righteous to steal, right? But I'm saying if he was stealing for you, consider that, right? Like, sometimes we be mad. Are you mad? You done lost all this money, this and that. You tried to start a business. I told you I didn't want to start a business. He was trying to create freedom for you. He was trying to create sovereignty for you. He wanted you to be the queen that you were. Maybe he didn't have the knowledge, this and that, or whatever. Now, if he just outright never listened to you, but hey, did you even support him through the process? Did you see what the vision was? Did you see if this mission was trying to uplift your mission? Because maybe you would have put more into it. Amen. That's great. That you found him at 21. That's awesome, right? Well, I'm just saying, a lot of us are not looking for husbands. We're not looking for wives. You should be looking for somebody that's qualified. Adam already had authority over the garden. Eve got brought into what Adam had authority over. So guess what? Because they had roles, Adam could give direction, and Eve was supposed to what? Lay down the law. Remember I said this, we don't read about Proverbs chapter 1, verse 3, right? Proverbs chapter 1, before you get to Proverbs 18:22, before you get to Proverbs and start talking about Proverbs 31, the virtuous woman. Why haven't you read Proverbs chapter 1? Proverbs chapter 1, verse 3, it tells you about equity. Something that y'all don't know nothing about, or a lot of us don't know nothing about, but you get in relationships trying to figure out why you got money problems. But Proverbs 1:3 says, what about your equity? That's part of the mission. I didn't know about that myself, but I had to get on board real fast. Right? You don't know about equity. And it might take a while to build up equity, but you don't know about equity. Equity is a law. You know that there's when you're talking about law, kingdom law, marital law, universal law, natural law, law of attraction, law first mentioned, all that. But out of natural law comes substantive law. Substantive law goes towards procedural law and remedial law, but it also goes towards what? It goes towards public law and private law. Now, when you get into those things, you realize all those things. Now, what you have to start doing is saying, is the law admiralty law, which is kind of sort of like maritime law? Is the law common law, or is it law of equity? A lot of y'all go to courts and don't even know which law you're under. We don't even know how equity works, nor the law of equity. Talking about the law of attraction, but the law of attraction and the law of equity, you're trying to attract equity. Some of y'all trying to attract money. That's why you're not making it. Some of you trying to get money, but you're an ATM machine. An ATM machine, it gets money just because it's an ATM. You're trying to go make money for somebody else and hoping they'll give you a piece, but you should have equity. It's in Proverbs 1, verse 3. Then in Proverbs chapter 1, verse 8, it says, husbands give you direction, and wives will lay down the law. Eve had a problem because her husband gave direction, and she was laying down the law. She laid down the law to the serpent correctly, right? Then all of a sudden, she allows the law to get broken a little bit. Now, still Adam, because Eden is still there. Eden's still there. They still got access to the tree of life. Adam could have then said, you know what? I back up my wife. And in this sense, I got to say, hey, in this moment, you came outside of the direction. So I'm not going to go down that path with you. And they wouldn't have had to worry about what happened. But Adam, who was supposed to give direction, what did he do? He said, my wife lays down the law, and she ain't laying down the law based off of the direction. And my direction shouldn't be my direction. It's not submit to the man, but it's what? Submission. The mission I've been given, part of it is not to eat of the fruit. But I'm going to go ahead and come outside the mission. And we're both going to be outside the mission now. As soon as both of you, because two become one. See, one person could have held it together. Fine. Eve, you wilding for that? I'm going to hold it together. And because I hold it together, you can come back into this oneness, this holiness, and I'm going to stay connected to my husband. Instead, Eve, I'm going to go ahead and just capitulate. I'm going to go ahead and do whatever you did. Yeah, I'm not using the Zohar right now. That's not my culture. So, no offense. It's just not my culture. So you see what I'm saying? You're having an issue. You're having an issue right now because you're dealing with what came outside the mission, and he came outside the mission. Two people outside of a mission will malfunction and die. Remember I told you yesterday, a man, he had to be put in Eden. He had to put in Eden, even part of the definition of Eden is Yah's presence, right? He had to be put in Elohim's presence. If you take an eagle, right? Remember we talked about, you take an eagle, you put it 200 yards under the surface of the ocean, it will malfunction and it will die, right? If you take a fish and you put it in an eagle's nest, it will malfunction and it will die. If you take a man and you take him outside of Yah's presence and he has no mission, he will malfunction and he starts killing people. He starts to die. Anything that touches him starts to die. If you take a sister and you take her out of her mission, she will malfunction and she starts to die. How you doing, babe? My wife is on, the Honorable Amma. Check her out as always on TikTok, YouTube, her website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish. Not A-N-D, the letter N, Bloom and Flourish. She's a healer, herbalist, chemist, and biologist by degree. Right? So Adam was in his work, though, when he got Eve. Adam was in his work, though, when he found Eve. You hear what I'm saying? I'm not sure about the seizure because we had to see what the seizure is coming from. That's something that maybe you can talk to my wife about. If you want to try and reach out to us, we can try and see if we can connect you to her. and she can see if she can help with that. But yeah, yeah, you guys do the whole Lilith thing. That's not our culture. In our culture, the Bible, and just in our culture in general, Lilith is talked about as somebody, as a deity or a spirit that we want nothing to do with. So if other people want to go ahead and connect other people's culture, and it's just like what people do with the firmament. Firmament's a Greek god, right? That's had sex with his own mama and stuff like that. Like, but they try to say that's what the quiet is. If you want to try and say Lilith is that, hey, to each their own. But we don't, we don't necessarily fall under that. But these are the things that are there, right? These are the things that are there, and you've got to realize, these are the things that are there. These are the things that like we're missing. And so you're talking about marriage and all these different things. This first marriage is crucial, right? When things happen, this was when they redefined their purpose. They redefined their mission. See what I'm saying? This define. We need to leave what's fine the way that it is. They tried to redefine the mission, and when they redefined the mission, they basically messed up the marriage. Remember, I said this yesterday, right? Sisters, when you find a man, you're not going to find when you find a husband, excuse me, you're fine, and he's about Yahweh's mission, and so are you. What's happening is you're having two imperfect people trying to make a perfect mission come to be. Right? Like, see, people come into marriage thinking he's going to be my sun and I'm going to be his moon and we're going to have the star, because you guys are into Ishtar, the Easter stuff, that Ishtar stuff. So you're like, he'll be my sun and I'll be his moon and he'll be my confidant and I'll ride upon the waves of his heart. And you get poetic with it, and then our congruence will help us to be able to cause vectors that will cause all types of things from angles to be loved. And everybody who comes into contact us will touch us, and we'll have the Midas touch on anything that we come across. Like, you love saying all these different things, right? But you're dealing with two imperfect people trying to make a perfect mission come to be. Now, they had problems and they were perfect, because even still they made an imperfect choice. But you're dealing with two imperfect people. Brother, stop looking for a perfect wife. Look for a wife that's willing to submit to the mission, because she will get perfected by you and you will be perfected by her. That's what you're looking for. You're not looking for two perfect people. If you're looking for two perfect people, you're not looking for real marriage. You have two imperfect people. You have a husband who's out here thrashed about. People don't like him. His masculinity is toxic, right? All these different things. And somebody who makes mistakes, all these different things. But he's supposed to be able to help you and to provide direction for a mission. And husbands, you're looking at a wife who's going to lay down the law, but she at the same time is going to be dealing with being ostracized, men ogling her all the time, her trying to get into knowledge of herself, her not having to be a strong, independent woman, because if she's too strong and independent, she can't be somebody who's submitted to the mission, because both of you are supposed to work together to have a mission. How can she be independent of you and at the same time be one with you? Both of y'all are learning all these different things together. You're imperfect people trying to get to a perfect mission. You said you have several family and friends who want you married again. Say you'll make a great wife. Well, hey, work towards what your hobby is. Be a great wife now. See, you won't make a great wife. You are a great wife. If you're a great wife, then, right, you're already pre-qualified for marriage, for somebody who's carrying the same mission. Once again, don't look for the husband or the wife outside of the mission. That's the problem. You're looking to see. Watch this. Some of y'all already say, my husband will look. He'll be tall, dark, and handsome. He'll be extremely strong. He'll be in the gym. He gonna weigh about 235, 6% body fat. Like, y'all got all these things y'all ready to talk about. I heard one sister preaching a long time ago. Her mama got mad at me. Her mom's an apostle. Her mama got mad at me because I said that it might be a little off in some of the stuff she was saying. But she was talking about, yeah, I want him to have, rough hands on the inside, but I want him to have nice hands on the outside. So he got to get a manicure, but at the same time, his hands gonna be rough because he's always doing construction work and stuff like that. Like, she had, and look, maybe I guess I get it. Be specific and all that, but we say things all the time like Yahweh, he laughs at your plans. Elohim laughs at your plans. Like, you're looking for the physical, this and that or whatever, but you're not looking for the mission. Right? You're doing all this stuff, but you're not looking for the mission. right? Like, be in submission. If he's in his work when you find him, right? He'll be in his work. See what's with Adam? He was in his work, and because he was in his work, he was resting in his work. He rested some more in his work, and when he woke up, he realized that now he was not alone. He was not all one. Alone is a compound word that means all one, all in one. He's never going to reach his full potential if everything is just him and him by himself, right? So he finds his work, he gets great at it, but then he can't reach what he's supposed to do if he's all one, right? And when he found his wife, he spoke over his children and his children's children and his children's children's children and all the way down to us. He spoke a word. He said, when I found somebody who allowed me not to have all one in myself, but now I can not just be fruitful and multiply, but I can replenish and subdue with this person. He said, what? He said, what? He said, for this cause, for this reason. He said, everybody who comes after me will leave their mother and father and will cleave. That means be attached at the hip to. That means to try and become one with who? His wife. Adam didn't know what a woman, at least what his woman, Adam didn't know what his woman was going to look like. He wasn't worried about it. He was in his work. And it was in his work that he realized, man, I need some help. Stop talking about, oh, they got to look like this, look like that. You probably missing who it is you're supposed to be like because you keep looking at what they're supposed to look like. Heck, you keep thinking about who you're going to be like because you look talking about what you're supposed to look like. I don't look like this. You know, I've gained some weight. Well, you know, my makeup's game ain't like everybody else's. Well, you know, I don't blah. Like, you start going through all these different things. And it's like, that ain't got nothing to do with this. You're dealing with two imperfect people. The fact that you were imperfect is part of the qualification for marriage. The person that becomes perfect and says, now I'm perfect, I'll be ready for marriage. You know what happens? You are a cancer to marriage because you're a narcissist. You think that you don't have no problems and that the world revolves around you. I know narcissists can have problems, but y'all get what I'm saying, right? You're not perfect. That qualifies you. You know what it also qualifies you for? Yahweh says, I can work with them. Why can he work with them? Because they need help. If you don't need help, he can't work with you. Why would he work for somebody that doesn't hire him? Well, the way that I see it, if you start off sentences all the time, not every once in a while, but if you start off a lot, listen to yourself. See, we don't listen to ourselves. Start listening to yourselves. If you start off a lot of sentences, well, the way I see it, the way that I see it, you might need to deal with yourself. Humble yourself. Get some Gamal in your life, some Yam Gamal. Have a period of humbling yourself. Sit down somewhere and hush your mouth for a minute and begin to hear from the Most High. Some of y'all don't pray right because all you do is talk to the Most High, but you don't talk with the Most High. You talk to him, you talk at him, but you don't listen to him. How much of your prayer life consists of you being quiet? See, because if you can't do that in your prayer life, you definitely can't do it in your marriage. Uh-oh. How many of you have started off prayer and said, Yahweh, I just want to listen? And then that's all you said. And if you ain't done it in prayer, then I know you ain't came to your spouse and been like, babe, I just want to listen. Tell me what's up. If you can't do it with Abba, see what also qualified Adam for Eve, or Adam, Chavach, or who we call now Eve. What qualified Adam for Eve was that he was a wife to the Most High. That's really the first marriage. The first physical marriage was based off the first spiritual marriage. He walked with his father in the cool of the day. So guess what he probably did with? So guess what? Or his husband, right? Adam walked. The Most High walked with Adam in the cool of the day. He saw that happening all the time. So guess what he probably did? He said, "Hey, if my husband walks with me in the cool of the day, I should probably walk with my wife in the cool of the day." You know, like it's a continuation. It's a continued flow, right? And here's some things real quick we want to add on this, right? We want to make sure that we add this to this because a lot of people are not aware of how this stuff works. I'm not sure how these are going to look. I took a whole bunch of screenshots, so I'm not sure which ones are going to show and which ones aren't. Hopefully, okay. So here's something y'all might have heard of, might not have heard of. This is something called 6 basic human needs. Now, really, for us, it gets even more simple than this, right? But we're going to break down some things and show you some things today outside of just our normalcy, because some people don't believe what we're saying. So you got to give them other stuff to show that the other stuff confirms what we're saying. But we've been telling y'all for the longest time, when it comes to husband, when it comes to wives, husbands are looking for respect. Respect is his affection. If a husband feels respected, if he feels heard, if he feels like when he says something, it doesn't need to be questioned thousands of times, if he feels like he can get the same respect as your friends or your family or whatever else, it's like, oh, well, I know my friends and family for this long. He's like, yeah, but I'm your husband. And especially when your husband been around for a little time. I'm not talking about he was around for 2 months. I'm not talking about y'all dating and that's your boyfriend now. I'm talking about when he been around for a minute and he been showing himself worthy, he keep looking for respect. Right? For a wife, her number one need is going to be what? It's usually going to be security. Make me feel secure. Allow me to feel like I'm protected. Allow me to feel like you got my back. Allow me to feel like, hey, you'll take care of these bills, even though I got a job and everything. It'd be nice every once in a while if, hey, I might even make more money than you, but if I weren't able to make money, would you be able to have my back, right? Make me feel secure, right? The husband then turns around and says, cool, you know what? Like his number two need usually going to be something along the area of sex as far as his physical need, right? Why? Because he's designed to give birth to the day he dies. He's designed to give, even through his seed, he gives direction, right? So he needs to get that out. If he doesn't, it even explodes. You call it a wet dream. He needs to get those things together, right? So, hey, he get those things together. You know, sex, all those things, whatever. Sex is a big deal to him because of that, right? Well, if sex is a big deal, what does the woman need in order to get sex? Her number two need usually going to be something in the area of affection, right? Give me affection so that I can go ahead, right, and get seed. You know, if you give me affection, I'll take on seed, right? Well, if you allow me to take on seed, if you take on seed, I'll give you affection. Give me security. If you want respect, I respect those who secure me, right? Well, if you want me to secure you, then I secure those that I respect, right? But peep game. So now we're bringing into some more natural ways of looking at it, right? And some more worldly ways, but they still are ways that I want you to consider. Just consider some things, right? You have something here called the 6 human needs. Usually it's called the 6 basic human needs. So number 1, they call it certainty. Number 2 is called variety. Sometimes it's called uncertainty, right? Number 3, significance. Number 4, love and connection. Number 5, growth. Number 6, contribution. Now, I don't agree with the order, and they come in different orders depending on who you're listening to, but whatever, right? But I'm just here to tell you, right, that we want to make sure that we're dealing with these things, right? So I want to show you how to deal with this. And by the way, there is no male or female spiritually. There's no male or female in heaven, not according to our culture. If you're taking on somebody else's culture, making it what you want, that's something different. I don't know how to respond to that because that's not something that we interact with. I'll respect that view if that's your view, but that's not how we look at things. So I can't teach out of that, right? Because that's not my culture. I'm a marach, and that's a marach, or even if you want to call me a jelik riot, or whatever the case might be, like I have to represent my culture and what I do. So in our culture, there is no such thing as male or female in heaven. There is no marriage in heaven, nor is there being given away in marriage, right? Marriage, even when it talks about between the father and, or, you know, between Abba and us, or between Yashua and us, etc., it's really trying to get us to comprehend how this relationship is supposed to work through a physical thing. It's trying to show you a spiritual thing, right? But anyway, so, you know, we're going into a whole bunch of different things, but I don't necessarily agree with the order, but I do want to deal with these. So people talk about certainty, right? One of the biggest things that people need is certainty. Now, once again, what makes a man certain? See, what makes a male, if you will, certain? What makes a female certain? If you want to say a cis male or a cis female, fine. But what makes a male certain? My culture is Yashtil, my culture is Shwe, my culture is Shamayam, my culture is even Cherokee. My culture by marriage even goes into some other things, but before I even go there, my culture is Taino. My culture is So I guess you would call that Jamaican. My culture, some of y'all might even try to call it Arawak. My culture is Omekshi. My culture is many of things, but very much in tune with each other, right? So I'm all over the map, but I do have a culture. And at the end of the day, my culture is not of this world, not of this system. So when we're dealing with these things, that's my culture, right? That's a great question, though. But I think that the whole thing was to be like, well, what's your culture? Why is your culture different? My culture looks at things a lot differently, right? I'm not going into Eurocentric stuff. I'm not going into people who are trying to say I have to give up who I am. I'm not going to people saying that unless I agree with what you say. Like, I have a culture, and it's okay to agree with what we say, right? You said, when I say my culture, what does it mean? Culture leads to beliefs. We have a whole thing on YouTube. If you like to look it up. But basically, culture leads to beliefs. Beliefs lead to emotions. Emotions lead to feelings. Feelings lead to mood. Mood leads to your effort or energy. And your effort or energy leads to your habits. Your habits that you now take to the next generation and instill it in them is basically a whole nother culture if you're not careful. Or you can take the same original culture and be able to list it, right? So that's what my culture is. And this culture informs our vision of marriage that really comes from Elohim, right? So that's why our culture is a little different. But so I'm looking at it through a specific lens, right? Because even a cult means a culture. So even people that try to say you're a cult, so the United States a corporation, so is the United States of America. You don't even know that there's two cultures in there, two cults. Which one would you call the cult? Which one would you call the culture? You don't even know. But in our culture, right? In our culture, well, men are spirits, but that's okay. I'm not getting into all that. I'm going by my culture. Thank you for the corrections. You can correct all you want. This is our culture, and I'm going to remain in the culture, right? So, certainty. What makes men certain is different than what makes women certain. What makes males certain is different than what makes females certain, right? If a man comes home and you say, "How was your day?" and he says it was all right, if I as a man heard a man say that, I would know that all right means, man, woke up, everything was great, probably had a nice lunch, didn't have no problems on the job, didn't have to deal with nobody pulling them over, like nothing too bad happened, nothing too amazing happened, just, like it was all right? He just described the whole day to me, right? So I'm certain of that. He didn't have to go, but that's a certainty. But guess what? It's not certain if you say to your wife, "What's all right?" It was all right because she needs to know, right? She's looking for you to say, "Hey, give me this, give me that, give me this, give me that." Like, what's the details? Like, for example, if a wife comes home and you say, "How was your day?" She might start off with, "Oh, well, first of all, I was feeling a little rough, yesterday, blah, blah. I was going through this and that. And I don't even know if I told you, I heard from my friend. We had a conversation, and this conversation went like this. So now we finished the conversation, I've been thinking about this for a couple of days. So I woke up, it was kind of on my mind, but I was like, okay, everything's gonna be all right. We kissed and said hello and everything. And I felt great about that. I went to the kitchen. I didn't know what I was going to eat. And for a man, he doesn't know that you need that to be certain. Because for him, certainty is like, I need like what actually happened. But she's telling you what happened, right? But she's not doing it as masculine as you may need. So you have to actually learn how to go into the femininity, right, of what's going on. So once again, he's speaking in direction. He's speaking in respect. Like, and if for us, if a man needs certainty, a man, watch this, a man or a male, right? If you want to go there, but he will not contact me and ask me for help unless he wants me to give him exact direction, right? How can you practice 15 cultures yet look through one lens? I don't practice 15 cultures. How can you assume that you know what I practice and you know nothing about me? That would be my question for you. I'm telling you through a specific lens, right? I'm able to look at a bunch of different cultures, but I look through it through a lens because in my community, my culture gets to reign supreme. I mean, people told us that manifest destiny says somebody else's culture got to reign supreme. Somebody told me that the lost cause means that the South should rise again and that gets to reign supreme. Somebody told me that manifest destiny means that you can go ahead and conquer people and say that you discovered lands that they live on and that could reign supreme. So in my culture, it's okay for us to say that our version of love and our version of our story, and heck, not even our version, but our story can come to the forefront and it can be greater than his story. I'm not concerned about the fact that you say that it has to come through all 15 lenses. But you know what's interesting about that? If you were to talk to me, I could probably tell you about what those 15 lenses believe, even if that's not the choice that I choose to look through the world through. You know why? Or look at the world through that lens. Why? Because it's important that I know what they believe. Your whole thing is, I don't know what you believe. I've been listening to you for a hot second. And because I've been listening to you for a hot second, I'm gonna just go. I'm gonna go ahead and tell you what you do, but you don't know what's certainty in my culture. Is the point? All right, Sister Felicia, glad to have you back. Culture reflects character. Culture gives character. Where did you get your character from? Why do you think that? Why do you think what's good is good and what's bad is bad? You were informed. What were you informed by? No individual is greater than the society. No society is greater than the individual. Even the Most High is not greater than the kingdom. He has to operate in the same laws. So where'd you get your whole thing of, morality from? Who taught you? It's culture. You just don't know what's certain in my culture. And I get it. No problem. You're trying to give me variety. That's one of the 6 human needs. It's not true. So you were informed in a vacuum. Tell me the person that was informed in a vacuum. Who was informed in a vacuum? Anyways, you're just trying to win. I don't need to be right. You can be right. You be right. But what you're saying is showing either cognitive dissonance or borderline Dunning-Kruger effect, and you're trying to gaslight at this point. You're trying to get me off of what I'm saying, right? You said culture and open-mindedness. Okay, fine. Why do you think you need to be open-minded? Because you're part of a culture that says you should probably open your mind. Or you adhere to one that says that, or you're trying to create one that says that. Even the word spirit, it means pneumatical thought, right? Pneuma. What is pneumatical thought? Stoic thought that marries the soul, the spirit, and the body together. What is the soul? The soul is the psyche. The psyche is the logic of, or I'm sorry, psyche or psyche. Psyche means soul. What does ology means? It's the study of or the logic of. Therefore, we're talking about the logic of what? Of what? The logic of the soul. The soul is breathed by who? Therefore, we got to learn the culture of who. Matter of fact, you can't talk about the universe. We're talking about universe, a verse, a single spoken sentence. Who spoke the sentence into existence? Where does he live? What does he expect? And what does he want to have happen? Thy kingdom, where he is, come, and thy will be done here on Aratz, or earth, the same way it is at Shamayim, or in heaven. Right? But that's okay. You can be right. Now, you can be right. I'm not worried about being right. I shall be righteous, but I will not be worried about being right. But I'm not saying anything. At this point, you're trying to haggle over prices. You're not really telling me why it is that you won't buy into what is. You're trying to haggle and bring it down to where it'll be like, okay, now I'll pay for it, right? What I'm talking about is already paid for by the blood, if you want to go to that part of the culture, right? It's already paid for. So I don't haggle over prices. If something's already paid for, then I already have ownership over it, or at least not ownership, but I have access to it because I'm an heir to it, because I'm a fellow heir to the one that paid for it. So since he already owns it and says I have access to it, I don't have to pay for it. I don't have to haggle over prices. I'm free enough where I don't have to haggle. See, a lot of people have to haggle over prices because you ain't free enough to just do what the word says. If you believe so. But that's really interesting. You would say certainty is paradoxical because in order for certainty to be paradoxical, you'd have to be certain that it's paradoxical to be certain. See what I'm saying? Like we're just doing stuff to try and haggle over prices. Certainty is paradoxical. It's a paradox. Well, in order to believe that, you have to believe in a paradox, and you have to believe that certainly that there is a paradox, and therefore you have to certainly believe that it's paradoxical to believe in certainty. Do you see what I'm saying? We're getting into these weird conversations where now we're just a dog chasing its tail. Baba Kasha says, Right? Like we just a dog chasing his tail. Like what's going on here? We still haven't even gotten past certainty, by the way, because people are arguing about things that they're not even certain are true. You said culture are the ways of a cult? Sure. Do you believe in Irish culture? Should you throw away Irish culture because it's the way of a cult? Do you believe in American culture? Some people would say no. I don't really care to say no, right? But then should you throw it away? Do you believe in Shwi culture? Do you even know what that is? I know what it is because I am Shwi. Should I throw that away? Do you believe in the culture of heaven? Because it came from a cult. Who's in the cult? Yahweh's in the cult. I'll go ahead and get in that cult all day, every day. Like you're not going to mess with me or that. See what I'm saying? Because I'm certain, right? I am persuaded. Death, life, you talking bad about it, you saying I don't know anything, this, that, or whatever, right? I am persuaded. I'm certain of it. Now the problem is that a lot of people go in variety, which is a lot of people like to live. See, a lot of people say the variety, but they don't say it that way. Some people, like I think even Tony Robbins, he would not call it variety. He would call it uncertainty. If you're careful, this need for uncertainty will have you to where you want to keep chasing your tail. So a lot of people are chasing their tail. Just going around in circles. Uncertainty. Give me variety, right? Variety is cool because variety means that I should be able to go ahead and get through a lot of different situations. So I plug through, I push through, I don't give up because my situation looks different. I'm built for that, to be able to have variety. But if it's taken out of context, what happens is I just want variety for the sake of variety. I just question for the sake of question. I'm not trying to really actually figure out what something actually is or what somebody's presenting, but I'm just trying to make sure that there's variety. Some people even call it spontaneity. You say, I want to be spontaneous. Well, cool, be spontaneous, but you can't be spontaneous till you certain, right? I can't just go, I want to do whatever I want, but if I leave and I don't have no way to pay my bills, but I do whatever I want, I'm going to have a problem. Excuse me. Well, sorry about that. Right? A lot of people are dealing in what? Spontaneity, because variety has gotten out of control. So if you're so spontaneous, but you don't pay your bills, you're going to have a problem. If you're so spontaneous, but you don't work on your marriage. So you make sure that y'all go to all these different places and you do all these different things and you have all these different positions in the bedroom and you do all these things, but you're not working towards making sure that you do things that'll last for 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100 years. Be as spontaneous as you want, but you ain't going to last that long. Right? It's just words, yeah, because words have meaning. If you live in a universe, right? Universe, a verse, a single spoken sentence. Uni, a verse, single spoken sentence. So in order for you to even have a multiverse, there has to first be a universe, which means that first somebody had to speak something into existence. Words matter. Words have energy attached to them. Words come from your heart. Words come from your mind. Words come from your energy source, whatever you want to call it. So yes, words matter, right? So I have to be certain even what I'm feeling in order to make sure my words are spoken, right? So I can speak a variety of words, but I should speak a variety of words based off of a certain principle, right? Then people get to a place of saying, I want significance, right? Significance. What makes a man significant is different than what makes a woman significant. Even in whatever culture you're in. That's what genders are, by the way. Gender really comes from genre, right? And genre or genre even, same kind of word. All they're really saying is what? They're saying it's the style of male and females in their culture. That's it. See, so you don't want to talk about it. That's why platonic relationships are dangerous. Why? Because Plato believed that the worst marriage was between a husband and a wife, or the worst relationship. He believed the best relationship was between a 40-year-old male and a preteen boy. In that culture, that's the gender. That's what males did. And they treated women like trophies, trophy-wise. You on the shelf, you make me look, right, good in front of everybody else. And then when it's time for me to go ahead and have a child, you can go ahead and carry my child. But I ain't really trying to mess with you. I'm trying to mess with this guy. And not even the guy, I'm trying to mess with this little boy. And these little boys, that had to happen to them, they just repeat the culture. Right? Right? We just repeat the culture. Yashva is from Yad, He, Shin, Vav, Ayin. Yashva. That's our culture. That's the name. Some people argue if Yahushua. Some people are going to argue Yahushua. Some people are going to argue Yahushua. Some people are going to argue Yeshua, and many other things to come. Right? If you, they're talking about from a class that I teach, and in the class that we teach them the Hebrew characters, the aleph, bet, different things like that. And so it didn't come from anywhere outside of like the word of our culture, the words of Alpha. Okay. So that's where they're getting it from. But see, significance. So a lot of people feel insignificant. What are you doing to make sure your husband feels significant? Not just significant as a human being, which is important, but see, we don't think about what makes him feel significant as a male. Now, people don't want to talk about this because you don't want to talk about culture. But watch this. What makes him feel significant as a black male? Or fine, as a black male from Chicago, or a black male from New York, or a black male from Ghana, or a black male from Morocco, or a black male who's in England, or a black male whatever, right? But we don't want to deal with culture, right? Oh, no problem. I was just letting you know that it came from class. So significance. What are you doing to make sure that they feel significant? What are you doing in your life to make sure people feel significant? Now, here comes number 4, right? Like I said, I don't necessarily agree. And I'm sorry for black sisters too. I'm sorry for a black woman in et cetera, right? I'm sorry, sisters. I didn't mean to leave you hanging there, right? That sister, she needs certain things, right? This sister, you're dealing with a sister who gets the most education and gets paid the least. She doesn't feel significant. This is why we're trying to get our own land. Right? It's not just, knowing to know something to be intimate with it, right? So to get the culture, it means that we have to live this. We don't live this. We don't have a space. We are in the land of our captivity. We're still captivated by other things. Right? Romans chapter 10, verse 1, once again, it is Paul's prayer that Israel would still be saved. Romans chapter 10, verse 2, we have a zeal for Elohim, but it's not according to knowledge, with to intimacy. Therefore, Revelation chapter 10, verse 3, what is that talking about? Revelation chapter 10, verse 3 is telling us that because we're not into our own culture, we've been captivated, we took on everybody else's laws rather than our own. Revelation chapter 10, verse 4, that's why you can't hold me accountable to the law, because we're not even in the correct law. Right? So in our system, in the system we've taken a hold of or has captivated us, we don't feel significant. You have a sister who goes to school, who goes to college, who gets the degree, who gets the degrees, has more degrees in the thermometer, can hold up her little, whatever, for whatever different fraternity that sorority, that she become Greek in, and that she's taking on a Greek culture. She does all those things. She sacrifices, does all that stuff, has the children, has the babies, all these things, and she's still underpaid because she doesn't have a culture that says we will lift you up. Not because of your degrees. We will lift you up because you are a sister. She doesn't feel significant. Y'all see this? Right? This is stuff that we should have had in the garden. We lost this stuff when we decided to be about our own business rather than the business of the Most High. She should feel like she should be able to get significance. She hasn't gotten it. All right, Minister Sonia, thank you. So, right? So she hasn't gotten what makes her feel significant. All right, love and connection. So certainty. We don't even have a certainty as far as who are you? What do you believe in? What does it mean to be Yashdel? Or what does it mean to be black? What does it mean to be a diaspora? We're not even certain of that, but we're trying to give variety without having certainty. Once you get your certainty, then we can start talking about the variety, but we don't even have an origin. We wrestle not against flesh and blood, against the variety of us. We wrestle against the principalities, the origin. So if we can get the origin together, the variety thing begins to make more sense because it's based off of something that's certain. And if it's based off of something that's certain, the variety leads us to feeling significant no matter what skin we come in, no matter what height we are, no matter what age we are, no matter if we wear makeup or if we don't, no matter if we have the best clothes or if we don't, no matter if we wear a suit and a tie or if we wear our own chemise, no matter, right, or a dashiki or a tunic or whatever we're wearing, no matter what we're wearing, we feel more in tune. Therefore, now we can have love and connection. Y'all catch all that? See, now we can have love and connection. Love is the action. And because we have action towards each other, we connect over that love. But how do you connect over something if you always have so much variety and it's never based off of anything that causes certainty? If there's no certainty there, then how do you have significance? Because I feel significant when I'm certain I feel significant. Uh-oh. You know, catch that? I feel significant when I'm certain I feel significance. See, people are like, people see this, and that's why we're going to talk a little bit about the love languages. But I feel significance when I'm certain I feel significant. See, somebody will be like, I've been giving you this, I've been giving you letters, I've been speaking words over you, I took you here, I did all that. But her love language is quality time. His love language is quality time. It's nice that you did all those things, but they've been waiting to just be in a room alone with you for 30 minutes. You ain't even got some of them, because they don't even care about words of affirmation. They don't even care if you talk to them. Just sit in the room. We can be on the phone. You can be on the MacBook. You can be watching the game. I ain't even gonna say nothing. I don't even care for football. I just want to sit next to you and hold your arm. Right? But there's no certainty. We're not even certain what their love language is. If you're not certain what the love language is, how you going to even have any love and connection? And how you going to have significance? You worried about variety. Take me here. Take my family here. Let's go on vacation. Let's do this. Hey, I want to go to the club. I want to do all these different things. Nothing is significant because nothing is certain. And therefore, there's really no love and connection. You're just going through the motions. No connection to it. And if without that, guess what? There is no growth. Thank you, King. Appreciate you. Right. Without it, there is no growth. Thank you, Jay. There is no growth. How are we going to grow old together? See, because you don't have stuff based off of certainty. You see, watch this. Some of y'all are getting married because your wife looks like she's amazing. It looks amazing. Some of y'all are getting married because your husband, he looks amazing. Some of y'all are getting married because of the sound of her voice. Some of y'all are getting married because of the sound of his voice. But guess what? You know what's certain is that as you grow together, you will both get older. That's a certainty. That's why I want to grow. They don't say we get older together. Not when you in marriage, right? They say you grow older together. See, for a real husband, for a real adult male, stretch marks ain't a problem because that means that's a sign that you grew older from me and you grew older with me. That's a word, right? Somebody trying to say I'm simping and stuff when I say something like that. That's a word for you. The sign, when I see the stretch mark that you had because you had my baby, when I see the stretch mark because maybe you didn't work out as much because you were trying to make sure that my home was running. Right? When I see the stretch mark, maybe because you were bigger, but you decided to make yourself healthy. And so you got a stretch mark. When I see some of the loose skin or whatever, I'm not turned off by that. We growing older together because I'm going to have me some too. I might have a stretch mark or two. Because when you ever seen that the wife gains weight or the wife is pregnant, so guess what? The husband, he gained weight, he get pregnant too, right? He got the same size. She got big, he got big. Because we grew older together. We grew in this. I'm not saying that if your husband remains skinny while you married, by the way, that's bad. I'm just trying to show you we growing together because we have love and connection. What you went through, baby, that's what I went through. And therefore, you're significant to me because we went through this together. We connected. And therefore, the variety of things we went through together, there was always a certainty that till no matter what comes, no matter what hell comes through, right, we always going to make it to heaven together. We're going to make it. We're going to have the kingdom of heaven inside of us every single day. It's the certainty that allowed us to go through the variety of things, that allows us to feel significant, that allows us to feel the love and feel connected, that now allows us to grow together. And we grew because we grew due to the contributions we gave one to another. That's why marriage is so important. What are the contributions? Do you wake up, when you go out every day, do you think to yourself, what can I contribute to that person's life today that's going to be life-changing? Not just a peck on the cheek, even though that can be life-changing too. I'm talking about, what do you choose every day to be like, that's life-changing? Right? We went out, I had stuff to do all day or whatever, for SOC. I was still in my rest, but, had stuff to do for SOC. Finished up the training and everything. 6 p.m. hit, so that's the end of Shabbat. we get ready to go and take care of some things. And within, my wife's taking care of some things. She comes back, and we get ready to go to a trampoline park. For my son, they do like a glow in the dark thing on Fridays, Saturdays, and then we're gonna have another one on Labor Day. So we're like, okay, cool, we'll go to one of them. We haven't been to one in a while, so we go there, whatever. While we're out, or before I got back that day though, or before we met up that day, the Holy Spirit told me, go make sure that I get her flowers. Now she already got a huge thing of flowers, but he was like, hey, that in that huge vase she bought, there's some space that you could put some more flowers in, right? So do something like that. Okay, cool, no problem. That ain't a huge deal, but it's something that she likes. She's a herbalist and stuff anyway. She likes the smell of flowers. She likes the look of it, all those things. That's her thing, her love language, right? Cool. So that's my contribution. Then we go out. We got to buy the glow in the dark, everything. So that's the contribution. We do that. We're taking videos, things like that, spending time together. And then what's the next step after that? While we're doing that, Holy Spirit says, get ready to take them out to eat somewhere. It's late, right? But it's about contribution. So I'm going to contribute something, right? And I'm going to take care of what? I'm going to show her that I care. What does the word care mean again? The word care literally means in Hebrew and in Greek, before people argue which one is better or whatever, it literally means that before somebody even knows they need something, you have looked at what they need or even what they might even want, and you decide that you're going to take care of it, or you'll be prepared to take care of it before they even realize that it died. I'm sorry, that they needed it. I'm sorry, I was reading the message about the phone dying. Let me say it again. So in the Hebrew and the Greek, when it says you care or cast your cares or care for somebody, or you say, I care for somebody, you're legit saying, I'm willing to look at what you need before you even know you need it. And I'm going to provide it before you can even ask for it, or I will be prepared to provide it, even if you haven't asked for it yet. I didn't say always a want, right? But definitely a need. I will support that need. Thank you, Shalon. Appreciate it. I will support that need even before you ask for it, even before you think you require it, even before it's something that's on your radar. Why? Because I study you. Study to show yourself approved, and then bring it before Elohim, that you can be a workman and need not be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. You think that that's just about reading your Bible. What about your husband? What about your wife? What about your child? My child was wilding out in the restaurant at the end of the night last night, having a great old time. Sounded like he was drunk because it was late. He don't get to go out that late and do certain things like that, but he had himself a great time. What we call back in the day a good old time. He had a great time last night. And I'll remember at the end, even though I had to shush him, like, hey, he was making little children jokes that you might not want to make at a restaurant. He was getting loud, but I will always remember that laugh over to my left-hand side as he was having the ball with his mom and his dad, right? So what I'm saying is that the contribution, it comes because I realize that the contribution helps us what? To grow. If she gets what she needs, then I get what I need. So we grow. And when we grow, it's coming because we have love and connection. There's actions and we have connection due to the fact that we know that we're significant one to another. We're significant no matter what happens, what circumstances come about in life. We are significant to one another because we are certain in what Yahweh has for us as husband and wife, right? That's what it is. We are certain, right? Last thing on here, and then we'll go ahead and go. Marriage is important. That's why we talk about it. And this is, I don't even know if I'm touching on stuff we even do a marriage class, right? We really probably should have other versions of the marriage class. We should probably have marriage 101 and all this other stuff, right? But when it comes to this, these are 5 love languages that people don't even think about, right? Quality time, right? I put it in a different order. I see people shift the orders around. Usually it's seen as quality time, acts of service, gifts. And then from gifts, usually it's seen after that to physical touch. And I'm sorry, what is the one? We're missing one. Why am I missing one all of a sudden? Well, it should be, hold on 1 second. Let me see something real quick. Why am I missing one? Okay, they got quality time. So usually it's words of affirmation, acts of service, gifts, quality time, and then physical touch. Usually the order you'll see it in, right? So a lot of us are not even aware how this stuff goes, but we don't even think about these things in your relationships, not just even your marital relationships, but in your relationships in general. What? Even in your relationships in general. Where, like, how does your spouse speak? Right? How does your spouse speak? You hear what I'm saying? How do they speak? Right? Yahweh speaks in all of these, by the way, right? But how does your spouse speak? I guess somebody would doubt physical touch, but if you say that he was in the form of Yashra, then you would say that he can touch you too physically. But nevertheless, like, how does your spouse speak? Do they like words? If they like words, have you learned to use them? Because there's some men who definitely ain't trying to use some words, and believe it or not, there's definitely a lot of sisters out there that ain't really trying to use words. But if your spouse needs words, you better learn fast, because they'll get empty. They might give you your love language, and you might give them your love language, and you think everything's fine, but they ain't hearing certain words. This happens a lot, right? Sister gets in front of the psychologist, or comes to the life coach, comes to the marital coach, such as myself, and sits down and says, I've been having problems with so and so, and we've just been going through this and that, and things have been so difficult, and if you could just help us, And I'm like, okay, well, what's going on? Well, he just doesn't love me anymore. And the dude just goes like this. The guy just goes, like, he's ready to fight, right? Like, because that she don't even realize she's using fighting words. Even though she might be thinking words of affirmation is her thing, she's using fighting words, not even realizing that when you speak that, he's ready to go. Because he's sitting up there doing all these different things. Thanks, babe. I see 11:11. So he's seeing all these different things, or I'm doing all these different things, doing all this stuff, and then he hears you say you don't love him, never love, blah blah blah. And he's ready to go. He can't handle it no more, right? But she'll say, well, but so you got to ask, well, what do you mean he doesn't love you? Blah blah. Like, what do you mean? So, right, because he's not in the space to even say, what do you mean? He ready to fight. So I got to go, what do you mean? She goes, well, he does help out with cooking, and he does clean the gutters, and he does the dishes when I cook, and he does the yard work, and he's very great about making sure the children get to and from school, and he does. And you start listening after a while, and you're like, man, this dude is Superman. But you just keep listening, you waiting, because in your mind you're like, he does this, like he takes care of stuff, he pays the bills, he does blah blah, and you're like, okay, all right, right. And then she says, and he says, yeah. So I do all those things with the problem, and she'll even sometimes be like, yeah, I don't know what's wrong with me. I just don't feel loved. So eventually, you realize out of the love languages, you're like, I never heard her say that he says da 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 da. So I was like, does he say I love you? And then his eyes he kind of does this thing, right? And then she'll be like, no, he doesn't say I love you. As a matter of fact, he's never said I love you. And he doesn't really say it to the children. And he doesn't tell me when I get a new dress. And he doesn't tell me when my hair is done. And he doesn't tell me, when my nails get did. And he doesn't. And it's like, oh, okay, she wants words, right? Like, it's real quick. You can tell, okay, she needs words. She needs to hear it. And most sisters need to hear it too. Like, brothers usually by nature, especially in an argument situation, it gets real iffy, because men actually think inwardly before we speak outwardly, because we'll just start yelling. Like, if you put a man in a position to where you just like, tell me what you think. Why are you being quiet about this? He's sometimes being quiet because he doesn't know how to process, and sometimes he knows he's going to say something that's there. Oh yeah, we talk about past traumatic things like that. You have to, because in every adult is a little child, and every child is an adult, right? So you got to talk about trauma. A lot of our issues are traumatic, even what we don't think is traumatic. Just because we don't label it as such doesn't mean it's not trauma that we carry. So yeah, we definitely talk about those things for sure. But one-on-one or otherwise, depending on how open the person is. But yeah, reach out to us and let us know. Or you'll see stuff like, one thing for me is around Yah's people, I'm very much so into. I think a lot of men are like this in general, not all, but a lot. Well, no, I won't say that. There's put it like this. There's some brothers. Like, here's another example of one. There's some brothers out there who their love language might be acts of service, like I just want to see what you'll do, respect, right? And also physical touch. They like sex. Like a lot of brothers, I won't say I can't put a percentage on it, but a whole lot of brothers are like, hey, I want to see what you do. Right. I can care less what you say about me. I want to see what you do, and then do we have sex, physical touch. And if the sisters, especially some sisters, be holier than now and be like, why you always thinking about sex? Why you always want sex and stuff? It's like because he's built for that, right? He gives sperm to the day that he dies, and y'all sisters know, right? Like if y'all withhold sex, like y'all know that could be a punishment, right? But if you punish a brother like that, what you're saying is in his language, in his love language, you're saying I don't love you. And you don't realize that. You think you're saying, I'm going to get him on track. But what you're telling him by your lack of sex, because that's his love language, part of his love language, physical touch. Now, I know physical touch comes in different ways. Some people just want to snuggle or spoon or do something like that, right? But in his love language, like if he's looking for sex, then what you're telling him is, I don't love you. So now you think I'm correcting the situation. I'm putting him in his place. He'll never be the same. I'm laying down the law. You're actually speaking against him. Now, if you were to do it once or twice, he should learn, hey, your love language might not be physical touch. So I don't necessarily need to have you always, doing whatever, and getting super freaky and doing things that are way outside, blah, blah, because that might not be your love language, but you got to give each other what they need, right? So if your thing is words of affirmation, right, and your thing is gift giving, if he's giving you words and he's giving you gifts, then guess what? At some point, you're going to have to give him not only acts of service, show him some things, do some things, but then also you're going to have to go ahead and lay down every once in a while. And that's all right. Right. But once again, it goes back to an overall thing we were talking about in this overall, like we got to be honest. We got to have an honest conversation in the overall piece. Real talk. What's one of the issues that we have is that men don't feel respected and women don't feel secure. Right. Women need to feel secure. Make sure she feels secure. Right. Uh, if my wife calls me and says somebody was messing up at some store, guess what? I'm showing up at the store and I'm getting ready to show out. Why? Because she needs to feel secure. Even if she feel uncomfortable, right? I won't go to a place of making her feel embarrassed, but I will make sure that she knows that, hey, there's not one time you can't tell me that somebody gonna do something and I won't show up. You will feel secure. Right? Right? Look, I might not have all the money in the world, but what I have, if I'm gonna have to give to somebody else, guess what? You're gonna get more than what they get. Right? I'm speaking a language. We're having a cultural conversation, and we never want to talk about the culture of things, but that's what we're talking about. We're having a cultural conversation. You said when you're putting out, they'll definitely put up with your crazy. Okay. So exactly, he thinks you don't want him nor love him because you and can cause him to stray. Hopefully he's disciplined enough to where he'll have a conversation with you first, right? And have multiple conversations with you about, hey, like I'm feeling like, and you got to let people know, right? The way Dr. Gary Chapman, who came up with the 5 love languages, describes it, he says, let the other person know that your love tank is getting empty. I even talk about the love bank account, same type of principle though, right? The love, the love, the love bank account, right? Like if my wife needs certain things in her bank account and she's not seeing them, then I'm trying to withdraw things from her, but eventually it become negative. I got to put something in her account, right? So if I'm always being like, give me words of affirmation, but she likes acts of service. Eventually what's going to happen is it don't matter how many times that I say, give me, and also doesn't matter how many times I say, like, watch this. So let's say you're with somebody who likes acts of service. In other words, they'll say stuff like, actions speak louder than words. They say something like that all the time, right? If they're telling you that all the time, what they're telling you is that they're not saying I don't care about words. They're saying that words are like a penny on the dollar for me. If you want to give me $1, then give me acts of service. If you want to give me, so one act of service is worth $1. If you give me a word, that word is still valuable, but it might only be 5 cents. It might only be 1 cent. But every time you give me an act of service, it will always be $1. So if you clean the blinds, if you vacuum the floor, right, that's an act of service. That'll get to my heart every time. But if you're somebody who's constantly saying, I love you so much, but you won't vacuum the floor, if acts of service is the love language, you miss me with that. Not that I don't think that you're great, not that I don't think you deserve to be treated as a human being, but that word that you speaking doesn't mean the same in my love language. Same thing for somebody who likes quality time. Excuse me. You can give me all the acts that you want, but if all the acts always come around everybody else, but you will never spend no time with me, if you make everybody else laugh, but you don't ever make me laugh, if you can preach a sermon to everybody else, but you can't teach me anything about the word, there comes a time to where I'm going to start being on negative. And when people come on negative, what happens when you try to make negative withdrawals, right? You'll either be told outright you can't make a withdrawal, or what will happen is that you go more into debt, right? You go more in the negative, and what happens? You start having to pay penalties. So not only do you have to pay to get yourself back at least to zero, but then you got to make sure that you pay penalty, you pay a fee. There's a consequence because you won't sow in to somebody's love language, right? So a lot of us are dealing with consequence. For every choice there's an invoice, and a lot of us choose not to bless or sow into somebody who's there and make sure we speak their language. What do you like? Where do you want to go? What would you like to do? Right? Even sometimes if somebody's giving you a gift, I don't want that, this and that, or whatever, but that's not your right. Well, even if it's not something, every once in a while, let her get something, let him get something that you might even not like, but let them show like, hey, this is something that I really like. I want to share it with you. We do have copper cups, so we can probably, actually, I don't even know if we have any left that we can send, but we can probably get you on the right track. I don't have the information on top of my head, though, but you can reach out to us if you want, and we'll try to get it to you. Amazon does have some or whatever. Only thing you got to make sure that you get specific ones, but either way. But yeah, like you got to, so when you're talking about this is what was put in creation, and creation was made to support marriage, and marriage was made to support the earth, or to fill it, right? To replenish it, to multiply, to fruitful and multiply and replenish it, and then subdue it, right? You got to have marriage together to subdue, right? That's why a lot of our babies, they grow up, and a lot of us are babies that grew up, and you might even have a mother and father, but you weren't taught certain marital principles, or might not even seen it even having a mother and father. And so guess what? You didn't subdue anything. You became subdued by the earth rather than having a marriage teach you how to subdue. That's why we've said before, it's not love that is the biggest weapon for us. It is our love. We've never learned our culture, our love, how we love one another. See, watch this. We read a verse and we don't even want to hear it. We don't even want to hear it in this context. See, now that I'm telling this context, I'm going to give you the scripture. I'm going to give you your belief system. I'm going to give you your Bible. Read your Bible. It'll bless it. I'm going to give you your Bible. And because I've said that we should learn how to love ourselves, people are not going to want to hear what I'm about to say. However, you have an ear to hear it. Even if you have an ear to at least digest it to see what you want to keep and what you want to say is waste, at least do that. Okay, you ready for this? I'm going to give you a scripture that you've heard me say and you've heard others say tons of times, but some of y'all are not going to want to stomach it simply because I'm saying that you should love yourselves. You ready for this? Yahshua said in John chapter 13, verse 34 and 35, a new commandment I give unto you, that ye love one another, right? Now, but don't love one another the way that you would love one another. He says, what? Love one another the way that I have loved you. He said, by the love that you have for one another. He's talking about Yahshua here. He says, by this will men know that you are my disciples, by the way that you have loved one to another. Some people don't want to hear me say it that way, even though Yahshua, or who you all want to call Jesus, some of you, or Yeshua, or Yahavashai, whatever you want to, Yahushua, whatever you want to call him right now, he says it clearly that if you want people to believe you're discipled in your culture, in the culture of the kingdom, love one another. And some people are not going to want to hear that because I'm telling you exactly what it says. Because love is not the issue. It's our love. I think it's Tank, right? Even though Tank got his issues too. But I think it's Tank that said, that song, Stay With Me Because You're All I Need. Sings that song, right? And was singing it. And he said that we can't get away with singing that song. He said we can talk about heartbreak, if we want to sell stuff, we can talk about heartbreak, we can talk about cheating, we can talk about down low, we can talk about rap songs where we mistreat each other, we can talk about killing each other. He said, but we can't sing a song talking about stay with me. He said, because our love, right, is our greatest weapon. Our love is problematic. If you talk about loving yourselves and being a father and being a mother and being a husband and being a wife and being a community and having your own land and doing these things, right? No, not Sam Smith, the person who sings the song. I'm talking about the person who was talking about singing it. So he sung a couple lyrics of the song and then said, I can't sing that song and get it to go in certain places because they don't want that song to go in certain places. So I'm not saying the person who originally sung the song. I'm saying that Tank was saying he sung a couple verses of it. He said, see, I could easily sing the song, but he said, I'm not going to be the one that they come to for that song, or I can't really write that song, or I can't really put that song out because that song doesn't get me paid. Why? Because we don't control the music industry. So when we talk about loving one another and being disciplined or disciples in that, people have a problem. They'd rather go to church today and hear somebody tell them why there's no problems, that everybody's all right, do whatever you want to do, right? Listen to the same Eurocentric stuff. Make sure that you're in Roman Catholicism still, or make sure that you're in Catholicism. You don't even know you call yourself a Protestant. And you don't even know that the Protestant can't be a Protestant unless they're a Catholic. So even if you're not a Roman Catholic, you're still a Catholic. Or you want to go ahead and say, well, I'm an Orthodox Christian, not realizing that an Orthodox Christian is still a Christian nevertheless. And all you're talking about is Eastern Rome instead of Western Rome, right? They say all those things. But when we say we're going to love ourselves, and we're going to be husbands to our wives, and we're going to be wives to our husbands, and we're going to love our children, and our children will be obedient, and we're going to be submitted to the mission rather than submitted to a woman or submitted to a man, and we're going to change the way that we operate, and we're going to love each other even to the place where we get our own land, and we're going to make sure we teach our own babies, and we're going to homeschool, and we're going to make sure that we do homeschool stuff where we come together, and we're going to learn, and we're going to have our own universities and our own colleges and our own language and our own this and that, and we're not going to dismiss anybody else. We just want to make sure that we love ourselves. When you say that, now people got a problem, right? People got a problem. So many people these last couple of days, oh, why Adam and Eve got to be black? What does that have to do with your salvation? Why is me presenting anything other than a white Adam and Eve a problem for you? You used to tell me that if Adam and Eve were white, it didn't mean I can get into heaven. So if I'm saying that Adam and Eve are black, why does that mean you can't get into heaven? Right? You see what I'm saying? It's a wild place. It's a wild place, right? To be where people won't even see the cognitive dissonance. They won't even see the being double-minded. They quote these scriptures, right? They throw them out there like they throw in dice, but they don't even know what is rolling. They don't even know that you landed on 2, thinking that it's 7. You sitting up here telling me that when I present an Adam and Eve that looks like me, right? And I don't even think that this is what they look like, right? Because even in this, somebody still had to make sure that she had, that she had a different hair, right? Even in this, they still made it to where they still had to make sure he had a shape up. They still had to make sure they were presentable enough to y'all, right? For you to not just see this and be like, oh, we gonna cancel y'all, right? They still gave my man a shape up. They still said, hey, let's make sure that your hair get done so that it doesn't get, too kinky and too nappy. And people still got a problem when I present a picture of a black Adam and Eve. But when you present a white Adam and Eve, hey, why are you guys talking about color? We don't see color. But over here, why are you saying? Are you trying to say that you don't like white people? Got a problem. We got a problem, right? People don't see the cognitive dissonance, right? Anyways, though, that's all we have. I think this is I'm pretty sure we'll see what the Holy Spirit does tomorrow, but I'm pretty sure that's the end of this series. So thank you all for being on with us. This is part 18, I believe. So 18 parts of this. This series on YouTube is called Genesis Revisited. And you can go on there, catch up. Go on a podcast, somewhat catch up. It's not all on the podcast. You can go on Facebook, catch up. And even look up the movement on Facebook or look up, hashtag Find Kofi, hashtag FINDKOFI on Facebook or on YouTube. on TikTok, even though TikTok doesn't show our lives. So, but you can look on these places. We thank you so much. You can be part of the Patreon kingdom to get a little bit more, part of the Patreon family. And we thank y'all who help us there to help with a few expenses that we have with the kingdom around the earth. Um, yeah, excited. Those who are part of the Hebrew Holy Days Committee, don't forget we're gonna try to meet up on Tuesday. Probably we probably want to do 6:30 p.m. Eastern New York time. So please, ma'am, please, sir, be ready for that. Um, but yeah, other than that, we thank y'all. We appreciate you. We honor you. Uh, Mad respect and mad love to everybody, even if you disagree with stuff or whatever. It's not about us having to be right. We try to be righteous according to our culture. So I'm not trying to be right. I'm trying to be righteous. I'm trying to be respectful. I think we've been respectful, even to the disrespectful. And we want to make sure that we're all in position. Yeah, the Feast of Trumpets is going to be coming up on September 26th, which is a Saturday. So we will try to work on that. We might even have it a little earlier in the day because I believe we're supposed to be doing a meetup on that day, or maybe when we do the meetup, we'll use part of the meetup to do the Feast of Trumpets with those that'll be meeting up with us in the Florida area, in South Florida area. So those who are in South Florida or want to come down that way or whatever, maybe you can join us. Also, too, my wife is trying to put together something. I'm not sure yet, but something for my born day. I don't know if it's going to be on October 6th or not, but if you're interested in learning more about it or helping out with it or something like that, get in contact with her. If you don't know her number or issue or info, I'll give it to you, I guess, because I guess I'm not supposed to really be. I guess the way it's going is going to be kind of sort of a surprise, but I don't know what we're doing and what's going on. But I'll be prepared for whatever is going to happen. It's my 40th born day. I really rarely ever do any kind of, I don't know if I've had one, I think, born day party my entire life. So this will be interesting. I think I had that when I was in my 22, 20, maybe not even 20, 21 years old, somewhere around there. So, but if y'all want to partake in that and want to say hello or whatever, I don't know what we're doing, but it'll probably be something on Zoom as well, or something people can physically come to in some spot. I don't know. But if y'all want more information, just let us know. But we'll get in touch with that, and we'll talk with everybody about that very soon. We appreciate that. Um, Look, we go off of a calendar that we've used for quite some time as far as the base, where the moon is based. And I'm not going to argue about that right now, in all honesty. So, but if you want information, if it's not an argument but a question, once again, get in touch with us and we can try and give you what we use. But thank y'all. We appreciate you. Thank you for being on. Thanks for the love. Thank you for the comments, the questions, the shares, all that stuff. If you want to become part of Patreon, let us know. If you want to become part of YouTube, let us know. All you got to do is go to the YouTube channel. Just look on our link tree. If you're on TikTok, if you're on Facebook, just look up hashtag Find Kofi on YouTube. The same thing that it says in the hashtag with the video, and you'll be able to find more information about what we're doing. But thank y'all. We appreciate you. We honor the king and queen in each and every one of you. Even if you're not living inside that kingdom or queendom yet, we appreciate the potential king and queen in each and every one of you. Please check out my wife, the Honorable Amma, on TikTok, YouTube, her website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish, not A&D, the letter N, Bloom and Flourish. She's a healer, herbalist, chemist, and biologist by degree. And we're thankful and grateful for her business. Her business is making sure that the health of diaspora is her business. And I believe this tincture of the month, although she has many different natural medicines that she does from foraging and putting together from scratch, but I believe the tincture of the month is I Am Rested. So if you'd like to be able to get more information on that one or any other tinctures that she has to provide, even if she needs to make a specific one just for you, depending on what your conversation and stuff go like. Now remember, it is a business. With us, we do donation only. With her, it is a business. Okay, so please support the business, right? Realize that there's a business. And also too, changinglivesinitiative.org, which he's over as well. Seasons are changing, and so it's time to readjust things, and that changinglivesinitiative.org to be ready to give the coats out and stuff again, as well as the food and clothes and things of that nature. So if you're interested in helping out with that, let us know, and we love to be able to allow you to help us get supported. So thank you for being on. We appreciate you. We honor you. Oh, wow. We still never made up our makeup session for last Monday, but we should be on this Monday for our early rise of Bible study session. So we'll try and get that together for you guys. And thank you all for being on. Appreciate you all. We look forward to talking to you guys very soon. And as always, we appreciate everything y'all are doing for the kingdom. Take care of yourselves. Look, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns about the series, you can always go back, look it up. If you want to talk one-on-one about things, I saw some people text and stuff. It is a Sunday, so today's my family day, so I probably won't get to you today, but we'll try to get to you tomorrow or later on this week. And we look forward to talking to you guys. Excellent work by those who are the ministers in training. Thank y'all for being obedient and doing what you need to do. And we're going to continue to move forward. So we look forward to talking to y'all very soon. And well, I guess as always, this has been Pastor Kofi, Pastor Servant to Christ, where we are always changing lives one mind at a time by being a voice of the voiceless and speaking the unspoken until I have the great privilege, opportunity, and responsibility of being in front of you all again. Please remember, as always, Yashua, that you are loved, you are necessary, you are majestic, you're fearfully and wonderfully made, and you, which is all of us working together, will be the reason why people who are in this system no longer have to be of it. Shalom, family. Talk to you later. Hey, how you doing, Minister Select Joseph? I didn't see you earlier. Talk to you guys later. Peace. And if Minister Select Sharon is on too. Talk to you later. Peace.